CBS.
Hit the wall. Grand slam.
This is magnificent.
Got a fantasy question? Email fantasybaseball@cbsi.com. Get ready to win your league.
Where fantasy becomes reality.
Now here's Frank, Scott, Chris, and Adam.
Welcome in, YouTube, to another mock draft live stream. This time, a 12-team Roto Dynasty startup draft. That was a mouthful, much like this huge bowl of chili that I just ate. Just an absolutely terrible idea. I don't know why I keep doing this. I eat too close in proximity to the start of these drafts, and then I feel pretty terrible.
It's even weirder that you share it with us. Are you just are you trying to get out ahead of a potential gastrist episode or something? I don't know. What are you doing?
Honestly, there was a part of me while I was eating it that thought there is like a 50% chance that I'm going to have to leave this draft at some point. And Scott, you're just going to have, I'm throwing it out there now. Full transparency. I like to be honest with the audience here. I am Frank Stampfl, joined of course by Scott White. How are we doing today, Scotty?
Oh, just fine.
Oh, just fine. We know Scott loves to tell everyone how he's feeling. We are not alone, of course. We are joined by one of the best fantasy baseball minds in the industry. From a redraft, dynasty, prospect perspective, he does it all. It is Eric Cross from Fantrax and FantasyPros. What is going on, Eric?
Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm doing great. I did not just eat a big bowl of chili, so I am doing fantastic right now.
Well, at least one of us didn't make that mistake, so I'm happy for you. Make sure to follow Eric on Twitter at EricCross04 for today's draft. It is a 12-team Roto Dynasty startup. As I mentioned, 2 catchers, 1 of each infield position, a corner infielder, a middle infielder, 5 outfielders, 1 utility bat, 9 pitcher spots. You must draft at least 5 prospects throughout the course of this Dynasty startup mock. I have the 2nd overall pick. Scott has the 6th, and Eric is 10th overall. Scotty, I am good to go whenever you are good, sir.
All right, let's kick this thing off.
Let's kick it off.
You're drafting 2nd, as you said, so we'll see. Now, Brad Johnson is picking first, not the former Vikings Buccaneers quarterback, but a different Brad Johnson is drafting first, and said he was going to blow our minds. Juan Soto pick, it did not live up to the hype, I have to say. That is a fairly by the book pick. Juan Soto, number 1 in a Dynasty league. I would have gone to Tatis over him. I would have gone Vladimir Guerrero over him too, but you know, you're kind of splitting hairs, I think, at the top of a Dynasty draft with that group.
Yeah, Juan Soto in the news earlier on Wednesday afternoon. Apparently, it turned down a 13-year extension from the Washington Nationals, $350 million. That's a lot of money. It's not enough money. It's not enough for Juan Soto. I know that sounds crazy, throwing out these ridiculous numbers. 13 years, $350 million. But by the time Juan Soto hits free agency, if he hasn't signed an extension already, he is going to get more money than that, assuming he stays healthy. Please stay healthy, Juan Soto. We need you to do that. Soto goes first overall. I take Fernando Tatis. Vladimir Guerrero goes 3rd overall. And I believe we have 3 different people with the last name White in like a 4 or 5 pick span here. So
I noticed that earlier, yeah.
It's
No relation.
No way. No relation whatsoever. RJ White takes Vladimir Guerrero, and then Ronald Acuna, who, if Fernando Tatis went 1st overall, I probably would have taken Ronald Acuna 2nd overall. In this format, Roto, a little bit more speed than Vlad and other options. So
I can see that, and I've been talking about how those are the obvious top 2 in this format, if not for their health issues, which, you know, if you're thinking long term, you're not going to weigh the health considerations as much. So I would have been surprised if Acuna lasted to me at 6. That's for sure.
All righty, we see Bo Bichette go 5th overall, and Scotty, you are on the clock. So walk us through your pick and maybe just your general strategy in a dynasty startup draft, specifically this format in Roto.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm thinking about longevity here with the 1st round pick. You know, I want it to be an actual stud, though. You know, so the next up would be like Trey Turner and Jose Ramirez in a redraft league. They're both 29. They're, you know, getting a little bit older. But I think I'm going to go ahead and take Trey Turner anyway. If I was If I was going more for the youth, I think the pick would probably be Kyle Tucker. But I kind of feel like his stolen base contributions are being oversold anyway, and certainly from a long-term perspective. I mean, he stole 14 bases last year, so how long is that going to be part of his profile?
And we've seen with a bunch of Houston Astros hitters, when they first come up, they run a good amount, a decent amount, and then it just kind of goes away. Maybe that won't happen with Kyle Tucker. Maybe he's just, better at stealing bases than guys like Carlos Correa and Alex Bregman, but we've seen it happen with other guys. So potentially something that could happen for Kyle Tucker as well. Scott takes Trey Turner, and then Jose Ramirez goes one pick later. Eric, we are approaching your pick. We're on the 8th overall pick right now. So you're up in about 2 picks. Not about 2 picks. You're actually up in 2 picks. What's going through your mind here, and what are you trying to do in a dynasty startup? Are you trying to compete right away? Are you trying to build for the future? I know that there's a lot of different ways you could build a dynasty team from scratch.
Yeah, I definitely want to compete right away, but also set myself up for a good long-term success. So now I'm on the clock. Oh, Wander Franco just went at 9.
Yeah.
I was hoping Kyle Tucker would fall to me. I do love Kyle Tucker. I think the stolen bases will be there, at least for the first handful of years. I think 15, 18 in that range. He's always shown that desire to run, and that's half the battle, right? So I was hoping he'd fall, but he went to pick 8. So there's all those young, quote unquote young, mid to mid 20s studs are gone. Got to go into the late 20s here. I love Bryce Harper. I'm gonna go Bryce Harper here. Another phenomenal year for him. Everyone just loves to hate Bryce Harper, which I get, but the dude is just rock solid, great hitter's park, one of the higher floors you'll see in the top 10 here. So I'll take that. I think he'll still run for a little bit. He shows the desire to run too. So I think you can count on at least double-digit steals next handful of years from him. Great average, OBP, power, run production, it's all there. So I'll take Harper there since my original pick, Tucker, was snagged from me.
All right, Bryce Harper. Yeah, he actually has turned it back on in terms of running. I mean, 2017, we saw a lull there where he only stole 4 bases, but now his last 3 full seasons in a row, 13 plus steals. And actually, if you pace out 2020, he had 8 steals in 58 games. So that's well over 13 steal pace as well. So the steals have been there recently for Bryce Harper, and still not even 30 years old. I know it feels like we've been talking about Bryce Harper for a decade. We probably have, but he's still only 29 years old. And so he's in the prime of his career, and all the underlying numbers, the StatCast data actually tells us that he might have been the best version of himself last year that we've ever seen. So it's kind of scary to imagine that when it comes to Bryce Harper. After Harper goes, we see Shohei Ohtani go. And again, here on CBS, he is one player, so a hitter and pitcher together. This is assuming a weekly scoring lineup. You have to choose whether or not you want him to be a utility bat or a pitcher before the week starts. So more often than not, like 95% of the time, you're going to use Shohei Ohtani as a hitter in this format. Then we see Luis Robert go, Ozzie Albies, Rafael Devers, and Eric, you are back on the clock, sir.
Yeah, debating between a few people here. Could go Mike Trout. You can never go wrong with Mike Trout. Could go a pitcher. Could go Mookie Betts. But I'm going to go a little bit of youth here and go with a guy that I think could be, being talked about just as highly as Vlad Jr. is now. I'll go with Yordan Alvarez, who, if you look at some of the metrics, he was nearly right on par with Vlad. So as long as those knees stay healthy, I think Yordan could have a huge year this year.
Yeah, and something I consistently bring up when it comes to Yordan Alvarez, I love young players, young left-handed batters who can also hit left-handed pitching. So it really just doesn't matter for him. Lefty, righty, fantastic plate discipline, power, hit tool, can hit for batting average. Really a complete player outside of speed. So he's going to be a likely 4-category contributor, assuming those knees can hold up. That is a big part of the equation, but still super young. Just 24 years old is Yordan Alvarez. Eric, I may or may not have your dynasty rankings pulled up, so I'm gonna hold you to your draft picks here. I'm just letting you know that now.
Hey, that's why they're out there, right? I was just thinking back to Harper real quick. I think we have been talking about him for well over a decade, because remember that Sports Illustrated cover when he was like 16 years old? What year was that? Like 2008, 2009? I think he was born like 92. So yeah, it's almost been 15 years we've been talking about Bryce Harper.
More like a decade and a half, right?
I know, it's insane.
It's pretty crazy when athletes are kind of put on this pedestal and they actually live up to the hype. So shout out to Bryce Harper. He's been amazing throughout the course of his career. Again, winning the MVP last year too. So shout out to Bryce Harper. After Yordan Alvarez goes, we see Mike Trout. So nice little strategy there from Dave Mendelson, friend of the podcast as well. He goes with Wander Franco and Mike Trout. So one young phenom, one current phenom, assuming that he could stay healthy as well. After Mike Trout, we see Freddie Freeman go and Garrett Cole, the first pitcher off the board, I believe. Yep, that is correct. 18th overall. Scotty, you are on the clock. What are we doing?
I think I'm gonna go pitcher as well. He's the top player in my dynasty rankings, and I don't think I'm gonna go against that. Walker Buehler seems like a very stable profile for the long term, as much as you can say that about a pitcher anyway. 27, I think at 27 he's older than a lot of people think he is, but pitchers, the real guy, the guys who deliver ace numbers year after year, they tend to age pretty well. I mean, Garrett Cole's 31. We got a couple high end guys who are in their mid 30s. I feel confident about the long term projection for Buehler, and of course, the immediate projection is strong too as a second round pick.
All right. Yeah. Walker Buehler there goes to Scotty, 19th overall, second pitcher off the board, one pick after Garrett Cole. Eric, what do you think about Corbin Burnes versus Walker Buehler from a dynasty perspective? They're both the same age, 27 years old. I think the strikeout ability is undoubtedly better for Corbin Burnes, but we've seen the workload be more consistent and he's done it longer. Walker Buehler's just done it longer than Corbin Burnes. So what do you think about those two from a dynasty perspective?
Yeah, it's super close. I can totally see going Cole, going Buehler, going Burnes. I personally have Burnes as my number one arm in dynasty. The other two are not too far behind in my overall rankings. Buehler, I think, is the safer option. He's younger than Cole. He's got that track record. I think he had 7,000 quality starts this past year, so it gives you that volume as well. Burnes is just so filthy. I think if Burnes can get up into that 175, 180 range, I think it's definitely going to be him, but he has yet to show us he can do that. And granted, he hasn't really been given a chance to show that he can do that yet. But if he can get up in that 180 plus range, which is basically the new 200 these days, I think he's going to be a solid option. But Buehler's right there. I would just love to see Buehler strike out more guys, and he has the potential to. It's just I'd like to see a little more strikeouts from him.
I think it's for me, thinking strategically in a dynasty league, I want, particularly if it's a big investment, high pick like this, I want the guy who's least likely to fall apart, right? That's like, I don't want to look back 2 years from now and say, why did I pass over Walker Buehler for Corbin Burnes? Burnes could be great in 2 years, but as you said, he has yet to show us he can handle an ace workload over a full season. And by the way, I don't think every modern pitcher can as much. As good as the stuff is in the modern game. I just don't know that everybody's equipped for that big workload. So I'm not ready to take that leap with Burnes from a long-term perspective.
Which is fair.
All right. So let's catch people up on what's going on here. I'm happy you guys filibustered there because I was trying to figure out who to draft. Man, I wanted Corbin Burnes and Mookie Betts, and they both went right ahead of me there. So I went with Manny Machado. I go dual Padres to start off the draft. Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado. Machado's getting up there. He is close to turning 30 years old, but I think his skill set is one that should age pretty well. The speed is going to slow down, but someone who makes a lot of contact, puts the ball in the air, I think it's something that can age pretty well for him. And third base, hopefully it gets better over the next couple of years from a dynasty perspective, but at least for this year, it's not looking too good. So I will take a pitcher. I was hoping that Brad would make this decision for me. I was debating Brandon Woodruff versus Shane Bieber. Bieber is a little bit younger. Shoulder issues. If we're splitting hairs here, I think the shoulder issues, I'll take Brandon Woodruff, even though he is a couple of years older there. This is an older team than I am used to drafting. Usually in a dynasty startup, in these mocks, I like to live in the 23 to 28 years old range. So everyone either is coming into their own together or is already in their prime. Not that Machado or Woodruff are past their prime, but they're a little bit older than I like. So just thought that I would point that out, trying something a little bit different here, more of a win now approach. RJ goes with Shane Bieber. I feel like, Scott, every mock draft we do, whether it's a dynasty or a redraft, RJ winds up with Shane Bieber. He always has him.
I guess maybe somebody out there likes Shane Bieber more than I do. I don't know.
I didn't think it was
That's
possible.
an interesting observation. I didn't think so either. But it is worth noting. You wouldn't think so just by his style of pitching and his as many innings as he's thrown already. He's actually a year younger than both Burns and Walker Buehler. So coming off the shoulder injury last year, that obviously is a concern, but I think from a long-term perspective, he's still very attractive. And then right after Bieber here went Bobby Witt. So now that's 2 prospects here, 4 picks into round 3. 2 prospects have gone off the board. Julio Rodriguez first, and then Bobby Witt. And then Eloy Jimenez, and now I'm up.
Eloy Jimenez goes, and now Scotty, you are up. Do you know who you're going to take? You want to walk us through the process?
I almost took him last time.
Sure.
I almost went out of order in my rankings to pick Ozzy Albies, who's actually he's gone. Okay.
Oh yeah, don't worry, Scott. I looked for him too, and I
missed him.
I missed it too.
Yeah. Okay. So in that case, I am going to go. Let's see, I already got speed with Trey Turner.
I've got your rankings.
Yeah, I'll just go with my rankings here and Matt Olson, who is he's 28 himself, and as a good plate discipline guy, I think he has plenty of strong years left as well.
And we'll see where he winds up too, because apparently on the trade block, Oakland wants to make moves, so they've been shopping Matt Olson and Matt Chapman. The Yankees have been rumored to be interested. If the Braves do not bring back Freddie Freeman for some unforeseen reason, then they've been rumored to be interested in Matt Olson as well. So we'll see where he winds up. But either way, Yankees or Braves would be very welcome landing spots for Matt Olson. Eric, obviously we have you here. Your pick's coming up, so I'm going to wait until after you make your pick because I don't want to distract you too much. But I do want to ask you about Julio Rodriguez going ahead of Bobby Witt and maybe how you would rank those to yourself. Oh, Jared Kelenic, 1 spot ahead. For those who don't know, Eric Cross is like the Jared Kelenic stan. Like, that is his guy. So we are seeing a full-on snipe live here on the mock draft. Eric, I'm sorry.
That was personal.
Don't worry. I will send a strongly worded text message to David in a little bit here. So David, be ready for that.
Where did you expect Jared Kelenic to go? Would you have taken him in round 3?
I thought I could get him either here or my next pick.
Okay.
The last 2 picks are, as I love Sandy Alcantara as well. I was debating going with my ace in this next set of 2 picks.
Sure.
But with Kelenic off the board, I want to go. I already got 2 outfielders, so I want to go different here. I'll go with the younger option. Just going to find him. Go Corey Seager, who I think pound for pound is one of the 3 best pure hitting shortstops in the game. He needs to stay healthy. Yeah, he doesn't provide any speed, but this guy could be a 4 category stud year in, year out, and just need to stay healthy. That's the big thing for him.
Yeah, we did our shortstop preview earlier this week, and we made the comp. Corey Seager is a lot like Freddie Freeman. It's just a matter of him staying on the field. Lots of line drives. Should have hit for a high batting average, 25 to 30-ish home runs. If he really taps into that power, maybe we get over 30 home runs. Probably a little bit more skeptical of that now that he's in Texas, playing more like a neutral, maybe even more of a pitcher's park. But yeah, I mean, pound for pound, I agree with you. I think one of the best pure hitting, probably not even just shortstops, probably just players in baseball. Yeah. He just has to stay on the field. After Scott took Matt Olson, we saw Aaron Judge, Sandy Alcantara, who I also was debating. It was him, Bieber, and Woodruff that I was looking into there. Jared Kelenic, the snipe. Poor Eric. And then Corey Seager and Cedric Mullins goes 35th overall. Aaron Nola to finish out round 3 there. Let's see. What else do we got here? Scott, you have a pitcher. You have Walker Buehler so far. You have 2 hitters and 1 pitcher. I have 2 hitters and 1 pitcher. Eric, what's your philosophy when it comes to pitching in Dynasty? Do you maybe just try and gobble up like a mix of like old guys later on, some prospects? How do you like to go about it in Dynasty?
I like to keep a little bit of a mix here. I like to get a couple young studs, like Sandy Alcantara would have been a perfect example of that. There's some other names I do like that I think will be there next round, so I'm not going to go with an arm here. I'm going to go with a guy that I'm surprised is still on the board. It's another shortstop, but this guy is just criminally underrated every single year. For my Boston Red Sox, I'm going to go with Xander Bogaerts here.
Yeah, he was my top player at
You're
this
not on,
point.
you're not on the clock yet, Eric.
Oh, shit. I thought I heard it on the clock. If I get sniped here, oh, shoot.
Oh, man. Imagine he's watching live and he's like, oh, I got it now. I got Xander
What?
Bogaerts.
Watch, I'm going to get sniped right here just because I said that. I thought I was on the clock.
Oh, man. Imagine snipe both ways. Jared Kelenic on one side, Xander Bogaerts on the other.
I'd be much more upset about the Kelenic one than this one.
Right.
I get a backup if they do snipe me.
Pete Alonso just went as well. He went 37th overall. Alonso basically in the prime of his career at 27 years old as well. And it looks like we might have our first timeout of the stream.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, indeed.
Just to build that suspense.
Let's see who he takes here.
Let's see.
That'll let us know if he had somebody queued up or not.
Yeah. Well, I hope he doesn't get Max Scherzer because that would be quite unfortunate.
Well, now I'm wondering if the whole thing's frozen. He timed out with Jonathan India as the pick. So that was clearly somebody he had queued up. I don't know if he had queued him up for later or if he queued him up for now. But we will roll on if he doesn't interject here.
All right. Well, like I mentioned multiple times already, I have both of your dynasty rankings pulled up side by side, and you both have Jonathan India outside of the top 70 in your dynasty ranks. So it is a little bit early for him. As great as he was last year, he is 25 years old, older than you'd imagine, as a prospect who was a rookie last year. Rookie of the year, by the way, Jonathan India.
Okay, so he's actually taking Tyler O'Neill.
Tyler O'Neill. Okay. So I just gave a bunch of stuff about Jonathan India, but let's go with Tyler O'Neill anyway. All right. So Tyler O'Neill goes, and then
baby.
Xander Bogaerts goes to our buddy here, Eric, who now has 2 shortstops and I believe 2 outfielders. So it's going to be an interesting build there. Now, Eric, I do want to ask you about the prospects that were drafted. Obviously, yes. 2 of the best prospects in the game right now. Julio Rodriguez went 20th overall, and then Bobby Witt went in the 3rd round, and I'm trying to find his name. He went 28th overall. Do you think that is appropriate spots for each of them? And who would you rather have, Julio or Bobby Witt from a dynasty perspective?
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty appropriate. I have them both in 20s. In the rankings, I have Witt at 20 and Rodriguez at 24. And again, kind of similar to the that pitcher discussion we had, where I do have Witt ahead because I love that extra speed that he brings. But if you want like the safer option, like Rodriguez could be the next Miguel Cabrera. I know that's incredibly lofty comparisons. I hate to say it, but just from what we've seen, he is just absolutely dominated everywhere. The quality of contact, his contact skills, the approach, and he can even run a little bit. That's a really underrated aspect of J-Rod's game is he can steal like 10 to 15. It won't be a lot, but you could be looking at another Bryce Harper type, big power, big average, big OBP, with a bit of speed. So I do prefer Witt because I think Witt could be the next 30-30 caliber shortstop with a good average as well. I like that extra speed, but no issues with anybody taking J-Rod over him.
I'm glad you made that Miguel Cabrera comparison because on one of our prospect podcasts earlier in the off season, Frank was wanting me to give comps for all the prospects, and I gave Alex Rodriguez as my comp for Julio Rodriguez, and then was making fun of myself for the rest of the podcast for doing that. But no, I mean, I do think he has the potential to be that generational type of player because it's just everything has come so easily to him from the time he was 17 years old.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. After Xander Bogaerts went to Eric, we see Zach Wheeler go off the board. Spencer Torkelson, so another prospect there, 41st overall. And then Lucas Giolito goes 42nd. And Scotty, you're on the clock with 10 seconds left. Oh my God.
Yeah, so there's one huge prospect who hasn't gone yet. I don't want to be the one to take him, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Adley Rutschman.
I had a feeling.
Yeah, it's just like he has. We want lofty comparisons for prospects. I'm not sure we've ever had a catcher prospect more, not just hyped, but highly rated across the board. Like there seems to be no weaknesses whatsoever in Adley Rutschman's sort of game, and catcher being the position it is, it wouldn't be at all surprising if a year from now for the next decade, beginning next year for the next decade, he's just locked in as the number one catcher in fantasy. So that it almost has to happen to justify this pick, but oh well.
It could.
It was the right time for him to go.
All right, Adley Rutschman, another prospect there, 43rd overall. Jacob deGrom, 44th overall. And I feel like, man, deGrom, from a dynasty perspective, even from a redraft perspective, he's pretty hard to figure out right now. I mean, the last we saw of him, he was dealing with, arm issues and was shut down last season. He is the best pitcher on the planet, far and away. It's not close. Inning for inning, he is the best pitcher. But how long, how severe are these arm issues, and, how much will that affect him moving forward? How many innings will he throw this year? Will he need some kind of drastic surgery? These are all, pretty legit questions that you have to ask yourself if you're doing a startup dynasty league, when selecting Jacob deGrom. So keep all those things in mind. But yeah, he's a pretty tough one to figure out in this format. After Jacob deGrom goes, we see Jose Altuve. There is one more pick, and then I am up. I have a few ideas of what I want to do here.
I see you stop using the queue to give away your picks.
I've done it on other live streams like this, and then Scott takes all my players, and then he says, "It's just an ant on the screen. I can't read those names."
It's so small, Frank. I can't.
You're a liar. All right, so I have one pitcher. I'm going to take another hitter. I could use Tatis at shortstop or outfield, but if you're being realistic from a dynasty perspective, he's probably going to shift back to being a shortstop. So I think that I should take an outfielder. Who just went? Okay, Alex Bregman went. I am going to take, just talked about Jacob deGrom and staying healthy and how tough that is. And so I'm going to take Byron Buxton. Obviously one of Chris's favorites here, and just a matter of, can he stay healthy? I mean, took a huge step forward last year as a hitter, OPS over 1,000, making more contact, crushing the ball, putting it in the air. Awesome power speed combination. Just got an extension as well. Really kind of betting on himself. A lot of incentives involved in that extension. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I think if he could stay healthy, someone that can hit 30 home runs with 20, 25 steals, I think that's possible for Byron Buxton. So
it's going to happen at some point, right? Like 1 year he's going to stay healthy and put together that monster year. It's bound to happen, which I hope it does.
And then the following year he's going to be a second round pick in fantasy, and
exactly
that's probably when you should fade him.
and then play 42 games. It'll happen.
Yep.
I was looking at Francisco Lindor as well. Everyone who listens to this podcast or watches us on YouTube, I do like Francisco Lindor quite a bit myself for this season. I think he should be fine for the next 3 to 4 years as well. Okay, I think I want to take another pitcher, which seems a little bit risky. 2 pitchers in your first 5 picks in a startup dynasty. But this guy is a little bit younger, and he was amazing last year. And I think that he is going to continue to build that workload, hopefully. And as he does that, if he can get to 170, 180 innings, we're talking about like 260 plus strikeouts, something like that for Freddie Peralta. He's absolutely ridiculous. I've got 2 Brewers on my team, and they both get to face the Pirates a bunch this year and for many years. So I'm very excited about that.
I love the Peralta pick. Him and Webb were 2 that I was hoping would fall to me, knowing that they probably wouldn't. But I love Peralta. He's a stud.
Yeah, it's so interesting you bring that up, because Logan Webb in particular, Eric, I feel like he'd be pretty tough to try and figure out from a dynasty perspective. While he is younger-ish, he really has only done it for half a season, but it sounds like you're buying into that half season.
I am. And honestly, I was a bit slow to come around on Logan Webb. I was kind of like holding back just for that point. I was like, all right, let's see if he can maintain the success. But the more you dig into the profile, the metrics, it's just, the high ground ball rate, he can miss bats, limit hard contact. Maybe he's not ever going to be up into that upper echelon, like where, Shane Bieber and those guys are right now. But I think if you're looking at a guy that can be a high-end number 2 or a back-end number 1 for you and just consistently churning out those good years, I think Webb's would be a really good one for a really long time.
All right. Bad job by me. I started the draft, the stream. I should have said, first and foremost, if you're here watching us live, thank you. But like it. Hit that like button if you haven't already here on YouTube. We only have 13 likes. There's 91 people watching. So please hook us up. Help us out.
At least 91 likes, as far as I'm concerned.
At least.
Look, our goal has been every one of these mock drafts to get to 100 likes throughout the course of the stream. There's some people coming and going, and obviously, I think some of these numbers will climb throughout the course of the draft. So help us out. Like this stream if you haven't already. And if you're just catching us for the first time, maybe you're a fan of Eric's and you just found us today. Welcome. Subscribe to the channel. if you haven't. We do a lot of fun stuff. We do one of these mock drafts live streams per week. We also do each of our full-length podcasts streamed here on the channel as well, usually 10 or 11 p.m. Eastern time on weeknights. Sunday, well, I guess Sunday's still a weekend, but Sunday through Thursday is when we like to do things. After I took Freddie Peralta, Robbie Ray goes, Alek Manoah, so another young starting pitcher there with a bunch of upside, Ketel Marte, and Scotty, you took Max Fried. That's who I was debating. I was debating Max Fried versus Freddie Peralta myself, and it might be a discussion of floor versus ceiling, but I think they're in that same tier.
Yeah, I agree. I did have Max Fried ranked higher, but I think I have him ranked higher in redraft as well. Yeah, I mean, look, obviously Peralta has a lot more strikeout upside, but you're not really going to do much better in terms of ERA upside than Max Fried. And I suspect his supporting cast will remain strong for the foreseeable future. So the wins should be there. And yeah, I just think he's really stable and the sort of pitcher you can confidently take in a dynasty context. I am a little worried about the state of my team in terms of power, especially because, you know, home runs, that's the category. Like I'm certainly in a redraft setting, I'm really consciously trying not to underdo this year. If anything, I want to overdo it. And I feel like I'm on the wrong track as far as that goes. But yeah, I got two pitchers now, both 27 and 28, and Trey Turner, Matt Olson, Adley Rutschman. That's what my team's looking like right now.
All right. Yeah. So between those three, I would say, 25-ish home runs for Trey Turner, 35-ish for Matt Olson. When Adley Rutschman hits his prime, I mean, it's hard to project prospects, obviously, but
especially catchers. But he's the kind of catcher you hope to get 30 home runs from in his prime.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say mid-20s with like a really strong batting average, but, you don't want to put a cap on a prospect's upside. So we could see even more of that out of Adley Rutschman. Let's catch people up after you took Max Fried. Trevor Story goes, Tim Anderson. So a bunch of shortstops. Trevor Rogers, another young-ish starting pitcher with quite a bit of upside. Eric, you take Teoscar Hernandez. What was I thinking? I probably should have taken Teoscar Hernandez over because I like him more than I like Byron Buxton. So that might have just been a blunder on my part. But, man, yeah, to get Teoscar this late, 58th overall, I think you got to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was debating him last time around. I was surprised he was still on the board. He's 28th in my rankings. I think people were a little hesitant on the breakout because of his past, issues with the contact metrics and the strikeout rate. But he's shown that he's made improvements there, and I think they're sticking. So maybe he's not going to be a super high average guy, but 270 with all that power and some speed and good run production. Yeah, I love me some Teoscar. I was debating Trevor Rogers too. I'm thinking Mendy might have my rankings up or something because I was gonna go Rogers after the other arms I was looking at didn't fall. So yeah, that was a good pick there.
He does not have my rankings up, that's for sure. And I was actually surprised now you're taking Teoscar Hernandez. I am kind of surprised how low I have him in my dynasty rankings. I give him a low confidence score, I think.
That's fair.
And he's 29, so that's, he's not exactly young. He's right in the middle. But yeah. No, I mean, I kind of think maybe I need to move him up a little.
That might be a little late
for dynasty.
Randy Arozarena just went 59th overall. I mean, this is the preferred format for him. I know, you might have some issues with the StatCast data that we saw obviously last year, plate discipline, but he's still pretty young, I believe. Yeah, he's about to turn 27 years old. So actually in the prime of his career, but some power, some speed, a 2020 type guy. But after you took Teoscar Hernandez, we see Arozarena, Frankie Montas, and Brian Reynolds at the turn, Jack Flaherty. And then Eric, you snag your first prospect here of the draft, and it is Riley Green, outfielder for the Detroit Tigers. You have no pitchers through your first 6 rounds. I find that interesting. So tell us about the non-pitcher strategy at this point and taking Riley Green. What do you expect from him?
Yeah, with Riley Green, I think he has that potential to be like this all-around 5-category high-level contributor. 25 to 30 home runs, 20 to 25 steals, high average. and he's shown that he's hit everywhere, one of the best pure hitters in the minors. The K rate did tick up a little bit end of last year as you got up to AAA, but I don't see that being a long-term issue. And I think him and Torque are going to form a really nice middle of the order along with Javier Baez there. Yes, I think it's that 5 category. I like a lot of those 5 category guys, and to get another potential 20 plus type of guy, get one of my 5 prospects here. I really like Riley Green here. And yeah, no pitchers yet. It's because a lot of the guys I wanted haven't fallen. But I still got some targets, near the back end of my top 100 of them. I'll probably start getting some arms here pretty soon.
All righty. After you took Riley Green, we see Marcus Semien go, Salvador Perez, which emitted a sigh from one Scott White, and Shane Oz goes off the board as well. So another prospect, and I believe our first pitching prospect of this draft as well.
Yep.
Scotty, walk us through it, man. You wanted to take Salvador Perez and pair him with Adley Rutschman.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was round 6, right? In redraft, I talk about how I'm never letting Perez slip past me in round 4. 30-year-old catcher, 31 maybe.
Yeah, he's 31, so
yeah,
it's a little iffy.
But he's just so much better than every other catcher. Boy, I got to make a decision soon here, huh?
I could talk while you figure it out. You've only got like 5 seconds. If you want to pause it to help yourself out, make sure.
I'm gonna help myself out in power with Brandon Lau.
Okay.
Who's 27, and of course eligible at second base.
Can't go wrong with that.
There are some older players who are better and safer, but I'm going with the youth of Lau here, him being only 27. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I don't know how I feel about it yet. Let's see who gets back to me in the next round.
I can't take another pitcher. That's too many pitchers. All right, so
leave some for me, Frank. Come on.
Yeah, I certainly will. I can't take this many pitchers early on in a dynasty startup. That would just be a little bonkers, honestly. So let's see what we got here. Okay, that's interesting. We are up to, let's see what else happened here. After you took Brandon Lau, Chris Sale and Max Scherzer go off the board. So typically Scherzer in a redraft league, borderline first round pick, second round pick. But here in dynasty, obviously being older, he's going to pitch, I would imagine, at least 3 more years because he signed a 3-year contract for the Mets. So he goes all the way down in the 6th round here. And that is followed up by Jose Barrios. So what I am thinking of right now, we just saw Salvador Perez go. I think that I want to be the next person to take a catcher. You start 2 catchers in this format, and typically in redraft, I want one of the top 5 or 6. That cutoff is like Yasmani Grandal and Wilson Contreras. But if I can assure myself the 2nd or 3rd best catcher who is in the prime of his career right now on one of the best teams in baseball, I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take Will Smith here and give myself an advantage at the catcher position. So through 6 rounds, I have Will Smith, Manny Machado, Byron Buxton, Fernando Tatis, Brandon Woodruff, and Freddie Peralta. All right. Brad.
Now you get the Jonathan India pick, Frank.
Yes.
You can load us up with all your Jonathan India tidbits.
Jonathan India. He has fantastic hair. He's got a great mustache. I believe at some point this season, he was coming out to the Pirates of the Caribbean theme. That was his walkout music. So he's really embraced this Captain Jonathan India persona, and I'm all about it because he fits the mold, and he's pretty good at baseball too. I should probably mention that.
Pretty good.
That would be interesting. Do I go dual Dodgers?
Ooh.
Oh,
tempting, isn't it?
Tempting indeed. All right, so at the turn, India and JT Realmuto go. So another catcher, man, Cody Bellinger. Really hard to figure out just in general, like what has happened to Cody Bellinger. Obviously, the shoulder injury last year, coming back from surgery in the offseason. But even before that, he's been trending down since, the final couple of months of his MVP season. He was really bad in the short in 2020. I'm going to take a shot on it. And it is risky for sure in this format. But you see the age there. He's only 26 years old. I'm betting that he can figure this out again. I think it's something mechanical, 1 year further removed from the shoulder issue. I know Scott Boras says a bunch of crazy things every offseason, but a vote of confidence from his agent. He says that he thinks Cody Bellinger is going to be healthier this year, and as a result, going to be better as well. So, it is tough. Eric, what do you think about Cody Bellinger from a dynasty perspective right now? Would you be more willing to buy him, or if you had him on your team, would you be still trying to sell that name value because you're just deathly afraid of what comes next?
Yeah, Bellinger is just I think he's becoming more polarizing than Alberto Mondesi, which is saying something at this point. I think if you have him, I think you got to hold him right now, because I don't think you'll get appropriate value if you try to sell Bellinger right now. Maybe let him have a hot April, hot May. Hopefully baseball is happening in April and May. But and then maybe if you want to deal him then, get that value back up, that'd be a good time too. But if you don't have him, I'm not opposed to buying him. I'm a little bit on the lower end of the spectrum with Bellinger. People kind of write off some of the struggles, or a lot of the struggles, due to a lot of the injuries. He's had rib, back, shoulder, kind of a game of operation with him. But you mentioned he was bad before the injuries started, and I just don't know if he's gonna be back to a top 50 player. But right here, I think it's a good shot to take a shot on him.
All right. I will say, if nothing else, I think that my team is fun. Like, I am happy with the team that I put together from a fun perspective. I don't know if they're going to win anything, but Will Smith, Machado, Tatis, Buxton, Bellinger, Woodruff, and Peralta. It's fun. I like it. I like it quite a bit. After I took Bellinger, Starling Marte, and Mitch Haniger goes. Scotty, you are on deck. So quickly,
I know who I want to take.
All right.
As long as I don't get sniped, I know who I'm taking.
Reveal that to us once you're on the clock, and talk us through that. But also your thoughts on Cody Bellinger from a dynasty perspective right now.
Oh man, it's fraught. It's just, I understand. I understand. It's a little too early for me, given the quality of players still left.
Okay.
It could pay off handsomely, or like we may have seen the last of Cody Bellinger as a fantasy relevant contributor. That's certainly a possible outcome. And round 7, that's just a little too much volatility for me, I think. You could argue every prospect is just as volatile. And I've given my take on Cody Bellinger just in a general sense, is like I think he's just kind of messed with his mechanics so much that if he's able to rediscover him, maybe it all comes back suddenly. And that's the upside. That's the reason why you take him where you take him. But it's just a little. It's just not something I find that I want to do, generally speaking. There's always somebody like Frank in the draft who wants to do it more.
Fair enough. Carlos Correa goes off the board. That I believe was an auto pick, but now he's back in the draft. Scotty, you're up, and you said who you want.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out Carlos Correa was my top-ranked remaining player for Dynasty. But I already have 2 middle infielders, so the guy I was looking to take, I will not be denied at third base in this particular draft. I am taking Nolan Arenado here in round 7, which means I don't have to sweat that very scary position. And I take care of some of the power shortcomings I was worried about. I am starting to worry a little about my team's batting average now, though. Can't have it all, I guess. But yeah, it's a relief. Even when you're talking about a long-term perspective, I mean, you got Josh Young and Jose Miranda looking to break in, but it's not like third base is a loaded position in the minors. It's not like you can just find some placeholder, Justin Turner, Josh Donaldson, fill in for a year or two, and then yes, if you happen to draft Josh Young, that would work out fine. But if you don't, you could have long-term issues at the position.
Also, for what it's worth, Scotty, you have Nolan Arenado ranked 64th in your dynasty rankings. Eric has him 65th. So based on that, thumbs up. You've got Nolan Arenado
for me
at pick 78. So nice little value there in this format. Whit Merrifield goes off the board. George Springer, and then Dylan Cease goes. I know that our friend here, Mendy, he's a big fan of Dylan Cease. And look, Cease, he's pretty young still himself. Yeah, he's 26 years old. Strikeouts for days. Lots of strikeout upside for Dylan Cease. Can he get the whip under control? Lots of walks, lots of home runs we saw last year from Dylan Cease. And Eric, you take your first starting pitcher off the board. It is Joe Musgrove. Would you have taken Dylan Cease if he fell to you?
I was debating it, yeah, and I was hoping Mendy was falling asleep because I was hoping to get Cease to kind of get back at him for taking Jared Kelenic earlier, though I know that was a small chance he'd pass on his boy. He's almost as high on Dylan Cease as I am on Jared Kelenic, which is saying something. But Musgrove, they're basically back-to-back in my rankings right now. I love Joe Musgrove. I think he's very underrated, so very happy with getting him here.
I know that we're way past the Kelenic pick, but as the advocate of one Jared Kelenic, I'll let you make your pick and then I'll ask you about it. But I wrote him up in my Breakouts 1.0 article, and I still think that there's a lot of upside. The price tag from a redraft perspective, it's higher than I thought it would be. Honestly, I think he's going around pick 120, somewhere in that range. It is 128 right now, according to FantasyPros. So a little bit higher than I'd like it to be, but I still think a lot of upside for one Jared Kelenic from both a power and speed perspective this upcoming season. George Springer went at pick 80. Dylan Cease, I mentioned that. Joe Musgrove, Alex Kirilloff, 83rd overall, and then Dalton Varsho and Shane McClanahan at the turn.
Ooh.
Look,
I was looking at McClanahan.
I love McClanahan, man, and I thought about taking him with one of my last two picks, but again, it's like, did I want 3 starting pitchers in my first 6 or 7 rounds of a dynasty league? Probably not, but I think it's a good pick. I think it's a really strong pick there with Shane McClanahan. Adalberto Mondesi goes next, which is another one of these, risk reward draft picks. 86th overall. He's still pretty young, I believe, as well. He is 26 years old. It's like Byron Buxton, just can't stay on the field. But Eric, you are back on the clock here in the 8th round. Do you know who you are going to select?
I do. I'm going to go with my second prospect, though he's currently a shortstop, but I think there's a very small chance he stays at shortstop. Probably second, maybe some outfield, but I think the profile is going to be very, very friendly for fantasy purposes. Go with CJ Abrams.
All right. Prospect there with the San Diego Padres. Lots of speed from CJ Abrams. And coming soon, I mean, Eric, do you think we could see CJ Abrams at some point this season?
I think we could have if he didn't have the injury last year. I still think there's a sliver of a chance. He got up to Double-A. He'll probably start at Double-A this year, but probably more so early to mid 2023. But that speed, and I think the power is going to develop too. Good hit tool. He's going to be, I think remember what Carl Crawford was, the good Carl Crawford. I think that's kind of what we could be seeing with Abrams. It's that 15 to 20 homers, the potential for 40 steals, good average to go with it. Top of the order type guy.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I was getting ready to take him. He was going to be my next pick. That obviously like 80 grade speed basically. So
yeah.
Assured, a lot of big base stealers in the minors. You don't really know how it's going to translate, but that's going to be a huge part of Edwards' profile for sure. And then he's got that great hit tool as well. So he's not so one dimensional. It's not like we're working with another Billy Hamilton here. And just to be able to lock in that much speed for the foreseeable future at a time when speed is so hard to find. Yeah, I like it.
And if he's getting on base at a high clip in front of guys like Machado and Tatis, and it's gonna be a fun team, just be in the top half of that order.
That's gonna be crazy. That's gonna be so much fun to watch. Abrams, man, if Abrams hits, I know like the hit rate on prospects. I don't want to be negative, but it is what it is. But if he hits, man, him and Tatis in the same lineup, that is going to be a ridiculous amount of fun. After CJ Abrams goes, Noelvi Marte, a prospect with the Mariners, and Nick Castellanos goes off the board as well. Scotty, you're up next. But real quick, Eric, I wanted to get your thoughts on Jared Kelenic and what you're expecting from him this season. Obviously a bounce back, but what does he bounce back to?
I think he's to have a pretty good year. Like I said, he's going around, pick 130 or so. I think he could be a top 50 guy. Like you look at last year, that he was on that, I think it was something like a 23, 24 homer, 12 steal pace while being terrible. He was bad up until September and made this, the mechanical adjustment back to his old swing, which I'm still kind of wondering why he went to a new swing after having so much success in the minors. Some say it was because he was having a hard time with the high velocity, but he made tangible changes and he was one of the best hitters in, maybe he only had 248, but he had 7 homers, 3 steals, I think like 40 combined runs in RBI, and a 10% walk rate in September. And I think a lot of that's going to carry over. I could see him pushing 30 home runs, 10 to 12 steals, solid enough average, maybe 260 or so. And I think Seattle's lineup could surprise me. So maybe he gets you 70 to 80 runs and 70 to 80 RBI. So I think he's going to have a really good season.
All right. Some nice expectations there for Jared Kelenic, and some talk that they're interested in either Chris Bryant or Trevor Story as well. So obviously that could be a boon to the Mariners as well. After Nick Castellanos went Liam Hendricks and Scotty, you go with Kevin Gausman. No concern from a dynasty perspective on his move over to the Toronto Blue Jays.
Well, it's round 8. I mean, I wouldn't say there's no concern. It's just he is only 31. It's not like he's one of these ancient pitchers who understandably falls 4 or 5 rounds in a dynasty league. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little worried about how the performance will translate with that move from San Francisco to Toronto, but like the value is just too good here. I was tempted to contribute to the shortstop run, the shortstop prospect run, kind of lock in a cornerstone shortstop. But there are a lot of good prospects out there still. I kind of feel like we're actually, as a group, kind of behind pace in terms of drafting prospects. And
don't worry, I got one.
There are plenty to fall back on if I didn't get my guy at that pick. So I took the easy one, the easy pick with Kevin Gausman.
I got one queued up in my mind. I can't queue him up because then you would take him from me, Scott. So
okay.
Oh. Just kidding.
Is it for your New York Yankees or somebody else?
Maybe.
That's the guy I was looking at. If it is,
that's the guy I was debating when I took Abrams. They're very close.
All right, so you know what? Let me just take him just to make sure that Brad doesn't take him from me. So I'm going to take Anthony Volpe, and I don't know if when he makes it to the big leagues he will be on the Yankees, but I think that he will. I think everything that we've learned this offseason. They're not going to sign one of these big name shortstops. I don't think that they signed Correa. They've already missed out on a few of the other ones. I don't think they signed Trevor Story either. There's been more talk about them signing someone like Andrelton Simmons to be a stopgap for Anthony Volpe to either take over later this season or at the start of 2023. Power, speed, hit tool. One of the breakout prospects in the minors last season, former first-round pick for the Yankees. Lots to like there with Anthony Volpe. After he went Josh Hader and Ryan Mountcastle to start round 9. And I think I want to take another pitcher, but I'm scrolling through here to find one that I like. Man, not really. Not really too excited about the pitchers that are available at this point. I can use a first baseman. Goldie's kind of old. Do I want to do that?
There's a great pitcher prospect that's out there.
Is there?
Unless I missed him being taken.
No, all right, so let's do it. I only got 5 seconds left anyway.
Come on, Scott. Don't give him ideas.
Scotty. All right. I took double prospects here. Was not expecting to do that, but yeah. So I have 2 starting pitchers so far, and I take Grayson Rodriguez, who is arguably the top pitching prospect in the game. Him versus Shane Baz, I think, is close for a lot of the prospect minds out there. Eric, what do you think of these 2 prospects that I selected? Anthony Volpe and Grayson Rodriguez, end of round 8, early round 9 in a dynasty startup.
Absolutely love it. Volpe is for real. I'm very upset that I'm a Red Sox fan and we don't have Anthony Volpe because I think he's going to be an absolute stud. And yeah, I think they're not going after the big name shortstops because they have him and they have Oswald Peraza who could help them pretty soon too. So I think they realize what they have in the minors coming up over the next year or so. Yeah, and Grayson Rodriguez, I saw him live when I was done visiting friends and family in the Philadelphia area. Drove an hour up to Harrisburg to watch him pitch in August this past year. And yeah, he was just absolute stud. I don't think he even had his A game. I'd say he had like his B- game and still dominated. He get the 4 pitches above average to plus. He got that command and control profile that's really good as well. He just looks like that guy that's going to be a frontline starter, the bulldog mentality. Like, I think he's going to be really good. So yeah, I love those 2 picks for you.
All right. I like the sound of that. Eric likes my picks. Nice. And especially when they're prospects, that's even better. Jesse Winker goes to RJ White and Christian Yelich, who, like Bellinger, tough one to figure out, especially at this point in his career, older than Bellinger as well. Christian Yelich, 30 years old, dealing with back injuries the past couple of seasons that have really hampered his production. So we'll see if he can get back on track this upcoming season. After Yelich goes Luis Castillo, someone I was looking at, still kind of young-ish. He's like in the prime of his career, but
he's still only 25, which kind of surprised me. I thought he was like 27,
Castillo?
28.
29 is what I'm seeing for Luis Castillo.
Why do I have 25 on my spreadsheet? I'll have to update that then. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. He doesn't see. He thought he was older than
Yeah,
that.
he's older than that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested to see how he bounces back as well. Obviously, the final 4 months were much better for him. You have to expect he is going to hurt you in the whip department, but ERA usually very strong. Strikeouts usually very strong as well for one Luis Castillo. Scotty, you are on the clock, and do you know what you're going to do?
Yeah, I think so. I was debating between two potential cornerstone shortstops last pick. You obviously took Anthony Volpe, so I'm going to take Marco Luciano.
Nice.
And he's Giants prospect, 20 years old, still in the low minors, but was one of those guys who stood out as a huge prospect. Yeah, from the time he was 18 years old. Had kind of a down year last year, but nobody's really scoring him lower as a result. So he looks like the sort of, he is a consensus top 10 prospect, and to get that in round 9 in a dynasty startup, I think can't complain about that.
Eric, lots of power for Marco Luciano. The batting average kind of fell behind last year. Lots of strikeouts for him as well. 258 batting average and 815 OPS. That was in single A and high A combined. What do you think about what we saw from Marco Luciano last year?
Yeah, no, the power is undeniable. And I saw that, he had 3 home runs out in the Arizona Fall League, none of which at the games I was at, but had a couple hard hit balls. What I'm questioning with Luciano is where the average is. When he got up to high A, the swinging strike rate went way up, contact rate went way down, K rate went way up. So maybe he's only a 260, 270 guy, which is still solid. And I wonder, he's been very kind of inefficient on the base pass. So I do kind of question how many bases he steals, but yeah, the power's there. And if he gets rights to the ship here in 2022, that could be a great value. So still has a lot of talent there with Luciano for sure.
And something I haven't really heard talked about for Marco Luciano is the fact that the Giants, the past couple of years, have just done a fantastic job in terms of development of all their players, not just prospects. They've gotten the best out of Brandon Crawford and Evan Longoria and all of their pitchers. And we're seeing all this hard hit data and StatCast data from their hitters. They're doing things the right way right now. And I think, if you were someone who is invested in Marco Luciano from a dynasty perspective, I feel pretty good about having a prospect in that organization right now. So shout out to the Giants. They've been doing a great job. After Marco Luciano, O'Neal Cruz goes, Lance Lynn, Brennan Davis, another prospect there, outfielder for the Chicago Cubs, lots of power and speed. Eric takes Tyler Glasnow. Very, very sneaky, Eric. I like it. Sixto Sanchez goes, and then Willy Adames to finish out round 9. Man, Tyler Glasnow, yeah, we're all kind of sleeping. So probably not going to pitch at all this year. Had Tommy John in, towards the later half of last season, but we saw him transform into a top 10 pitcher from a fantasy baseball perspective. Eric, it sounds like based on this pick, you are buying what we saw from Tyler Glasnow last year.
I am, and that was the one thing I was looking for him, was getting that third pitch. He added that slider, which was a very good slider, to go along with that fastball curveball. So he's got that really good 3-pitch mix now. And yeah, I think if he didn't have surgery, we'd probably be talking about him a good half an hour ago, probably on the stream, probably going in the 40s or something like that if he's healthy. And that was one of the kind of the slower ones coming around on Glasnow because I had concerns with the health and the third pitch. He had that third pitch. Now it's just the health, and obviously was looking absolutely dominant before he had the injury. Hopefully he can just get back on track. This is just a minor blip in the road, and he can kind of get back to that top 10 status, which I think he could for sure.
Scott, what do you think about Tyler Glasnow in this format in particular? Is this the right range for him to be drafted? Maybe end of round 9, early round 10 in a dynasty startup?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't have him ranked this high. So, it probably wouldn't have been quite when I was looking to take him, but obviously it's a good upside play if you're thinking next year and beyond. He will be 29 before he pitches again. And I just want to point that out. So it's not like he's this up and comer that you imagine him being. He's more like right in the middle of his career, probably. But round 10, that's not something to fixate on so much.
Yeah, and having a pitcher in the Rays organization obviously is valuable as well. I mean, some people get worried about workloads with Rays pitching prospects, and obviously Glasnow's not a prospect anymore, but he proved last year that he is a workhorse, and I'm kind of expecting probably not to the same extent. Something similar for Shane McClanahan. They need him to throw innings. You look at their rotation, it's pretty bad outside of Shane McClanahan. So I think that they need him to kind of take over as the front man there. And I think that we see something like, 150, 160 innings from Shane McClanahan this upcoming season. All right. So after Willie Adames went, we see Pablo Lopez and Andrew Vaughn to start off round 10. And Eric, you are back on the clock. Do you know who you want?
Yeah, it's not letting me take him, though.
Oh, who is it?
I'm trying to go Paul Goldschmidt. I've hit draft 3 times. It just doesn't work.
Okay. Well, let me see if I can make that happen for you.
Not sure what's going on.
I don't know.
Do it, Scotty.
Is it happening?
No.
The room is acting a little wonky in a number of ways at the moment.
A little wonky indeed. Yeah, I think some of these timeouts have kind of thrown off the room a little bit. So
yeah,
we'll see if
we'll
see if we get that back on track. But in the meantime, 98 people watching. Thank you for coming to hang out. We are an hour into the live stream here. 52 likes, 95 people watching. Help us out, everybody. Get those likes up. If you haven't already, hit the like button here on YouTube. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so and tap the notification bell. You'll get notified every time we go live. Typically, again, Sunday through Thursday, we go live each night, normally for our full-length podcast or to do one of these mock draft streams. The mock drafts we do usually a little bit earlier because they take quite some time. But around 8, 9 o'clock, usually with the mock drafts. And then a little bit later on, 10, 11 o'clock, when we do our full length pods. We've been doing a bunch of position previews recently. Next week, we'll have outfield part 1 and part 2, starting pitcher part 1 and part 2. So a very important week of position previews coming next week. Subscribe to the channel and like this video if you haven't already. All right, let's see. What do we got, Scotty? Do you have any idea? Because I don't have any idea.
That doesn't
I
look
think
like
you're
a
gonna have
face.
I think you're gonna have to filibuster while we wait for the room to get in order here.
No problem. We've seen a few other picks here, and let's talk about Andrew Vaughn because Eric, it was a down year for Andrew Vaughn. I say down year because I think we all just had too high of expectations for him. But if you look at the circumstances with which he was just kind of thrown into, asked to play a position that he hasn't really played, playing in the outfield, and really did not have that much experience in the minor leagues as well. So do you expect a bounce back here for Andrew Vaughn in 2022?
I do. And it reminds me a lot of, I know they're very different players, but the Xander Bogart situation back in 2013. They brought him up. He's been a shortstop his entire life, but they signed Steven Drew that year. Move him over to third, ask a rookie to learn a new position mid-season, kind of on the fly. That's a lot. That's definitely a lot for a young player who's just really trying to focus on hitting and adjusting to major league pitching. So I don't get why LaRussa's their manager. I don't see him as a good fit for this young team. If they would have gone with a younger manager to kind of grow with this team, but hopefully it looks like he could DH a lot more this year, maybe get back into a normal groove for him. And yeah, you mentioned it. He didn't have a lot of minor league experience, only 55 games. And yeah, he was a very polished collegiate hitter, but still 55 games is not a lot for even the most advanced hitting prospects. So you look at some of the quality of contact metrics, they are still pretty good. Hard hit rate, barrel rate. The approach was still pretty solid. Didn't strike out too much. I think it was in the low 20s. So yeah, I think there's definitely a nice little bounce back coming from Andrew Vaughn. I think he could be it won't be elite, but a very solid 4-category guy.
All right. Andrew Vaughn again there with the White Sox. And this is what happens sometimes when you are broadcasting live. Anything can happen, including when we have draft software included here. So we're stuck on the loading screen here, but as soon as we get up and running, obviously you will see that, and then we'll move on with the draft here. Scotty, I know that you're doing everything that you can, but how's the team looking for you? I know you probably can't look at your team right now. I believe you have 3 starting pitchers, right? Through your first
I do.
9 picks?
Yes, okay. I have Walker Buehler, Max Fried, and Kevin Gausman. I do not have a single outfielder yet, which 5 outfielder league,
probably not great, but
it's because I'm taking them all.
Yeah, there you go. I do have a very full infield. So, it's too early to say. I think I don't have any really old guys yet. So everybody I've drafted is by some measure, a long-term asset. I think my oldest player is Gosman, who's 31. Hopefully he's got 3 or 4 good years left in him still. So I feel like that's a good position to be in. In terms of balancing the hitter categories, it's kind of trickier in a roto league to balance both long-term and short-term, and then do the whole, but I need enough home runs, I need enough stolen bases, I need enough batting average thing. Like that's just a lot to juggle. And I feel like I'm coming up a little short in the batting average area, which again is something that's better filled in the early rounds than the late rounds. So I'm not sure how I feel about my team yet. I could feel better. I don't think I'm in a bad spot necessarily. But there's some work to be done. And I'm excited for some of the picks I have lined up here if we ever get going again.
If we ever get going again. No, we will get going at some point. I just contacted some support, and we'll see if they can help us get back on our feet here. I took 2 prospects at my last turn. I took Anthony Volpe and Grayson Rodriguez, and that's typically earlier than I'm used to taking prospects in this format. So mentioned earlier, kind of trying something new out where, early on, the first couple of picks, Manny Machado, 29 years old, Brandon Woodruff, 29 years old, more of a win now approach. And then balancing it out here more so in the middle rounds, grabbing some prospects earlier than I'd like, but 2 hopefully huge impact prospects from a fantasy perspective as well, between Anthony Volpe and with Grayson Rodriguez here as well. Eric, how many pitchers, if you remember, how many pitchers do you have at this point? I know you have Joe Musgrove and Tyler Glass now. Did you grab any else yet?
Not yet. Those are the only 2. But this is kind of, my plan B for pitching. If I didn't get some of those arms that I was talking about earlier, like the Logan Webbs or the Freddie Peraltas, there's a lot in this range that I can build for the future with. Like Glass now, obviously he won't help me this year. Like if anything, maybe he pitches in September or August down the stretch, probably out of the bullpen role as they ease him back in. But long term, I love that pick, and I think I still can mix in later on some kind of stop gaps to help me get through while I don't have Glasnow, some of those older veterans that get undervalued in drafts. So yeah, I only have 2 arms right now, but love my offensive core. Outfield of Harper, Teoscar, Jordan, and Riley Green. Really love that. Got the speed upside with Abrams. A couple good shortstops with Seager and Bogart. Just got to fill up the infield a little more, but I'm liking my start so far.
I think that we are good to go. As soon as I write in the YouTube chat, hey, we'll take some questions in the meantime to help filibuster a little bit. It seems that the draft is back up and running here. Yeah, so I think we're good.
Who did they give me?
You got Goldschmidt. I think we have to back out a few different picks here. But
yeah, we probably had some auto picks made while people were being dropped from the room and allowed back in. And okay, I think we're rolling again.
I don't think it gave me Goldschmidt, though.
You have Goldschmidt. It's showing up for me that you have Goldschmidt.
Oh, I did. Okay,
that was made.
Let me
as well.
Let me refresh then.
Someone did ask in the chat, did Eric draft Soto or Kelnick? Unfortunately, there's no way he was getting Soto at pick 10. So that's the nature of where he was drafting. And then Jared Kelnick, unfortunately, got sniped in the 3rd round, 1 pick before. Yeah, but he was going to do it. So
me and David are going to have – David actually texted me right after. He probably heard me say that. I was going to text him. He said, love you. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't believe you. We're fighting right now. We are fighting right now.
All right. After Paul Goldschmidt goes another veteran first baseman in Jose Abreu, and then Dustin May. So interestingly enough, we saw Tyler Glasnow last round, a Tommy John recovery, and now same thing with Dustin May, who maybe we see him very late in the season, September or something like that. Maybe he helps the Dodgers out in the postseason. Not expecting much this year, but for 2023 and beyond, could obviously have a ton of fantasy value and looked like he was finally breaking out last year as well. So
yeah, that was one I was actually debating taking in the next set of picks for me, because yeah, you saw him start to adjust that pitch mix, get more strikeouts, more whiffs outside the zone. And yeah, I think he's going to be a guy that, if we do this again next year, or maybe not next year, because he won't pitch that much this year, but maybe 2 years from now, another guy could be, he might be a top 10 arm. Like, he's got that type of upside, I believe. So I really love that pick there by Raymond.
All right. After Dustin May goes Giancarlo Stanton and Scotty. You're on the clock.
Yes. Okay. So this is a dynasty league. I think it's time to start taking advantage of these prospects that are slipping through the cracks. And this one will help my long-term outfield needs and also my long-term batting average shortage. And that's Corbin Carroll. Very exciting prospects. A very exciting prospect. Just plus hit tool. Great on base skills. Plus speed. It looked like he's played so little in the minors that it's hard to know exactly where he stands, exactly what all he profiles as, but he was showing legit power for the little bit he played last year too. And I think particularly from a roto perspective, he's looking like potentially an across the board contributor.
I know our buddy Chris Welsh, big fan of Corbin Carroll as well. Their outfielder with the Arizona Diamondbacks, dealt with the injury last year, but lots of upside with Corbin Carroll. Franmil Reyes is the next player up. One of
You are on deck.
Oh, that is me. I've got to shut that volume off. So I don't want to bother everyone here while we're drafting.
I thought that was me for a second.
Franmil Reyes, one of the, I would say, big three utility bats this season. It's Reyes, it's Nelson Cruz, and Ohtani. So those are really the big names there this upcoming season. Emmanuel Clase, so interesting, right? I mean, I understand it's roto, you need saves, but drafting closers in Dynasty, drafting closers in general is a mess, but man, doing it in Dynasty, there is so much turnover, week to week, month to month in a fantasy baseball season, let alone in a format like this. RJ, are you kidding me, man? I purposely did not put him in my queue because I didn't want everyone to see. And you took Jorge Polanco from me. I am now tilting and got to figure out what I want to do.
RJ has a way of making people tilt. I've noticed. I kind of think he drafts off my rankings, to be honest. But yeah, no. Yeah, you mentioned the closers. I thought it was interesting. It was a couple rounds ago, but we saw Liam Hendricks go ahead of Josh Hader, which, wouldn't raise an eyebrow in a redraft league, but Hendricks is 5 years older than Hader, so that seemed a little strange to me. I think when you're talking dynasty value, there's a clear separation between the two, and in fact, I put Class A in the middle of them in a dynasty league. To the extent you can forecast longevity from a closer, right? I understand that, but yeah, Hendricks clearly doesn't have long to contribute.
RJ's watching because he wrote in the chat, I draft off of my spreadsheet. Scott.
Well, maybe we just have similar takes on players.
Well, you have the same last name, so it's
that's all that matters.
It's a possibility. All right, so somebody I like very much so in redraft this year, the profit pocket, which I have dubbed Rhys Hoskins, Joey Votto, Josh Bell, and CJ Cron. Love all of those from a redraft perspective, but Rhys Hoskins is actually the youngest of the four. Just stay healthy, Rhys. Awesome season last year. Got off to a bit of a slow start, but then the power really, really came on, and finally was batted. It was backed up by some batted ball metrics. So hit the ball extremely hard, puts it in the air. Great ballpark to hit in. Strong lineup with the Phillies. Just stay healthy, Rhys Hoskins, and I think that we could get a 35 homer, 250-ish season out of Rhys. And I would be perfectly happy with that at this point in the draft. All right. So after I also took Logan Gilbert, by the way. So, I got sniped on Jorge Polanco. I don't know. I'll search somewhere else for my second baseman. But I took Logan Gilbert, and then we saw Ian Anderson and Trent Grisham go. I took Hoskins, and then Kyle Schwarber.
See, it's going after another favorite of mine.
Yeah, he is. No, he's doing it on purpose. I know. RG's watching now, and he knows that you like Kyle Schwarber. So he's doing it. I know what he's doing.
The beefcake. That's how Kyle Schwarber will forever be known now, right?
The beefcake. Frank Snipes times 3. Okay, so I'm doing something right because I'm sniping our friend Nick Mamikos, who is normally part of a lot of these mock drafts as well. Eric, what do you think of Logan Gilbert from last year? I thought that just a lack of consistency really was what I noticed most from him. I think the strikeout upside is there. He throws hard. I like the secondary stuff. He just has to be more consistent. What did you see from Logan Gilbert?
Yeah, you saw near the end of the year, he started getting a bit more consistent. Yeah, he had a couple of blow-ups, and there's the ERA stayed inflated. But I like Gilbert. I think he's going to be. So I don't think he's going to be a guy that gets up into the ace tier, but maybe that next rung down, like a good number 2 for your dynasty long term. So I think there's a nice little 4-pitch mix there. Love the slider and the changeup. I think those are both very good pitches for him. Had over 50% whiff rate with that changeup last year, even though it was more of a seldom used pitch, on 8% usage. But good pitch mix, solid command and control as well. Not going to be a guy that walks, a ton of guys, gets himself into danger there. So I like a lot of what Seattle's doing with player development. So he's got that workhorse frame too, 6'6", 225. I think he's going to be a guy that can rack up innings, good ratios, good strikeouts, and to be very consistent for you.
I mentioned the fastball, that it's a hard fastball. It's also just a really good fastball. So in terms of Fangraphs pitch values, I know that it ranked better than Robbie Ray, Garrett Cole, and Sandy Alcantara. It was 8th best among starting pitchers last year. So really, really strong fastball. Just needs to develop some consistency there for one. Logan Gilbert. After Schwarber went, we see Dansby Swanson, Josh Bell, and Zach Veen to Scott. So you did this last dynasty startup mock that we had, Scotty.
Yeah.
You went all in on the prospects, and it seems like you're kind of doing it again.
Like I said a couple rounds ago, I feel like we're behind pace in drafting prospects. These prospects that I'm taking now are like consensus top 15 guys, at worst top 20 guys. So like we're not reaching here for these youngins. And there I was actually I have a certain infield prospect ranked higher than Zach Veen. I'm not going to say his name because if he makes it back to me, I'll absolutely take him. But I went with Veen because I referred to how prior to that Corbin Carroll pick, I didn't have a single outfielder on my roster. So I have a lot more needs in the outfield than the infield, and didn't want to potentially block myself from making some infield picks later on. Just need more help in the outfield. Veen is, we're not going to see him until 2023, maybe even 2024. But Rockies, so he's got the Coors Field factor going for him. Big power. He stole a lot of bases last year. In the low minors, they had this weird pickoff rule that made it easy to steal bases. So I'm not sure how much we can count on speed long term, but it's at least a possibility for Veen.
All right. After you took Zach Veen, we see JD Martinez go Ranger Suarez, Ranger Danger. Joe Adell goes to our buddy Dave Mendelson, Zach Gallen to Eric, and then Vidal Brujan as well. Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you're a big fan of Zach Veen, right?
I am a very big fan of Zach Veen. I think he's gonna be a stud, and everyone likes to harp on the Rockies because of how they've been over the last handful of years with prospect development and blocking them, and that's very valid. But Veen just looks like he has it all. The power is the leading tool there. 30+ homer guy. Don't read into that stolen base total because of the rules in the lower minors, but I think he can be at least like a 10 to 15 steal guy, and I think there's an above average hit tool there as well. I think he's gonna be, and then obviously Coors Field elevates all that. Elevates the average and the power. So, I think he's going to be a really good fantasy player.
I'm getting kind of like a Kyle Tucker vibe. If you put Tucker in Coors Field, does that seem like an okay comp? Or
maybe take away a little bit of average, but I think that's pretty power speed could be pretty similar.
Yeah.
After Vidal Brujan went, Nick Lodolo, so another prospect there, pitching prospect with the Cincinnati Reds, Jake Cronenworth and Carlos Rodon. Lodolo, by the way, fantastic in the minors last season, a 2.31 ERA, 78 strikeouts, over 50 2/3 innings pitched. He did make 3 starts in AAA. Those starts were not as good as he was in AA. But if you're looking for prospects who can make an impact this season, I think that there's a chance that we do see Lodolo with the Cincinnati Reds in 2022. All right, Eric, you took Chris Bryant, who, he's getting up there in age. I think he's like 29, 30 years old, but he bounced back last year. He was solid, like rock solid. And especially, at third base, I think this is a fine time to wind with him. Pick 135.
Yeah, I thought the value was pretty solid. Yeah, this is not a sexy pick, but you can't always win with primarily sexy picks. So the multi-position eligibility, third, first, outfield to give you that added flexibility, which is great. I think he's still a solid player, 25 or so home runs, good counting stats, average won't kill you, mix in, at least a little bit of speed. So I want to see where he ends up. I think this will be very interesting to see where he ends up in the potential lineup and ballpark he falls into. But I think at this point I got to mix in some. I need an infielder, get that third base locked up as well. So I like the value.
All right, 98 people watching right now, 65 likes. So if you are watching this and you haven't hit that thumbs up so far on YouTube, please help us out. We want to try to get to 100 likes by the end of this video. After Chris Bryant goes, Charlie Morton gets timed out again. He seems to be the official timeout pick whenever anyone does not make their pick. Oh, Scotty, that was the one, right?
That was the one. Tristan Casas.
David actually just texted me. He said he can't pick, or he said I can't draft.
I'll ask him who he wants. I'll stall as I decide on my next pick now that I've gotten sniped on
a couple of Red Sox prospects there.
Tristan Casas.
Yeah, Eric, tell us about, I know that you are a Red Sox fan. Tell us about Marcelo Meyer, who was their first round pick last year. And obviously Tristan Casas, who people are very, very excited about.
Yes. First, though, David wants Josh Young. Scott.
I think
he's long gone.
Oh, is he gone?
Come on, David.
Oh, we can give him that other one that we just can't showed up. All right. Come on, David, pick again.
I got to make my own pick here. Okay, Brendan Rodgers. That's the pick. Boom.
Mayer and Casa. I got to see Casas 20 or so times this year playing AA. Portland is about 15 minutes from my house up here in Maine. Casas, he could have a Freddie Freeman type peak. Maybe the average isn't quite as high as Freddie. I don't think you'll see like 310 out of Casas, but a good average, good OBP, very patient, very mature hitter for his age. And he started talking about how he's going to be more aggressive this year, really tapping into that power more. And the raw power is double plus easily. So, I think you could see a nice middle of the order bat by the second half of the season here for Boston. And Mayer, he was kind of the high floor guy out of all those prep shortstops with Cleo Watson and Jordan Lawler and Brady House. But there's a really good hit tool there, really good power potential if he fills out the frame. Maybe you see a little bit of a Corey Seager type profile out of him. That's really good in 4 categories. Maybe he gives you a little bit of speed, but I'm not banking on much there. But yeah, I really like both those prospects for Boston.
All righty. Yeah, I saw an article recently about how Tristan Casas has added a bunch of muscle as well. So yeah, let's see what that power looks like in the minors this season for Tristan Casas.
You see a picture of him recently. He looks absolutely just jacked. So like, remember that Bryce Harper photo from like years ago when he got all ripped? It's like that. Like, it looks like I wouldn't want to, fight Tristan Casas. He would absolutely kill me. So
yeah, I mean, Eric, just like as a rule of thumb, just don't fight any prospects. I think that's
true.
Do that if you want to keep your job. But yeah, I mean, most of these guys are probably physical freaks, so you probably don't want to fight them anyways.
Nah, yeah, good call.
All right, so I really could use another outfielder. I have 2, and I don't have an outfield prospect. So yeah, I only have 2 outfielders. Could use Tatis in the outfield this year, but I think by next year he probably will just have shortstop eligibility again. So I don't really know what to make of Austin Meadows, but he's still young enough. And as my 3rd outfielder, I'm willing to take a shot and hope that he can get back on track. But there's
some of us don't have an outfielder yet, Frank.
Yeah, so
at least not that's in the majors.
All right, over under Scott winds up with Hunter Renfroe on his team. I'm just going to keep saying that every mock draft. Austin Meadows last year struggled mightily against lefties, completely sold out for power. His fly ball rate launch angle went way up, and towards the end of the season, he was getting benched against left-handed pitching. So there's some stuff to figure out. And, if you struggle against lefties for someone who plays for Tampa, that's probably not great. But again, he's still young enough where I'm willing to take a shot, and hopefully he can figure it out.
Hey, sorry, Scott, can you give David Anthony Rendon?
I probably can't back out that many picks at this point.
Yeah, I think we're past the point of no return, but it's all right. Charlie Morton should be good for like 1 more year.
Yeah.
Sorry, bud.
Sorry, David.
He's got a pretty curveball, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the best in the game. All right, so I have to figure out who I want to select here.
The Justin Verlander, Luis Severino back-to-back picks.
Can you pause it, Scotty?
Interesting. Yeah, sure.
Well, back that. I definitely don't want you, Darvish. I'll tell you that right now.
Why not?
Come on, 1 pick after Justin Verlander.
He's only 35.
You, Darvish, burned me so hard. I know that we're not supposed to play fantasy like this, but he burned me so hard last year, and I just can't. I can't get over it. I can't forgive him. I mean, I think there are obvious warning signs too. Like he just wasn't good after the sticky substance crackdown. Yes, I'm stalling here because I'm trying to figure out who I want to select. But because second base is pretty bad already at this point, and I don't have one, I'm going to take a prospect, and I'm going to take Nolan Gorman. So that's going to be my pick here.
Yeah, I think that's the right prospect to take. And big power at second base potentially. And I like it. You mentioned Darvish and, the concerns there. I think up to the point where I actually prefer Verlander to Darvish straight up.
I think
they're right next to each other in my rankings, but I actually feel more confident in Verlander coming back from Tommy John surgery than in Darvish dealing with who knows what at the end of last year.
I have Darvish. We both have Darvish one spot ahead of Verlander right now, Scott. And
no, I moved Verlander ahead.
Oh, well.
Does it show that?
Maybe you didn't save it yet, or maybe I need to refresh this.
Maybe not.
But yeah, look, I think if we see Verlander pitch in spring and he just looks like Verlander, I mean, it's going to be a rocket ship, at least from a redraft perspective. So he would move ahead of Darvish. You might want to move him ahead of Darvish now, like Scott just mentioned. So Verlander went recently. He went at the end of round 12 here, probably going to pitch for, I would say, at least 2 more years. He signed a 1-year deal that also had an option for the second year. So it sounds like he wants to pitch at least 2 more years. Severino went. I took Nolan Gorman. George Kirby, starting pitcher prospect for the Seattle Mariners, goes. Max Muncy, who is still awesome when he plays, but dealing with this torn UCL right now, and we haven't received any updates on him. So it is kind of concerning. Raisel Iglesias, another closer. And Scotty, you are back up in round 13. Will you select an outfielder?
I will not, Frank. I think, given the current state of my outfield, at least the immediate outfield, and the quality of prospects still available, I think I'm going to start pivoting toward to competing in 2023. And if I compete this year by accident, that's fine. But at this point, my team looks to be built more for next year and beyond. And I talked about in round 6, I think, taking Nolan Arenado because I'm not sure, not just what third base would look like for me this year, but long term. Well, I ended up getting that long term third base option in Jordan Walker of the Cardinals, who's still, he's not somebody who's on the verge of a promotion. He'd have to move pretty quickly. I believe he's only 19, but he's ahead of pace for a 19-year-old and just clobbered the ball between low A and high A last year.
All right, so Scotty now has 5 prospects: Marco Luciano, Corbin Carroll, Jordan Walker, Zach Veen, and of course Adley Rutschman, who he drafted much earlier on in the draft, and rightfully so. What else is going on here? We see, after you take Jordan Walker, Anthony Rendon goes, Trevor Bauer, Alec Thomas, and Tyler Mahle. Let's check in on your team, Eric, and see how this pitching staff is coming together. I know you took Zach Gallen a couple of rounds ago as well. So let's see what you got here. You got Musgrove, Tyler Glasnow, who again will likely not pitch this year, Tyler Mahle, and Zach Gallen. Do you like the way that this is rounding into form?
I do. I think I like the value on both on Gallen and Mahle. I think, especially if he gets dealt with all those trade rumors surrounding him and Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray, probably one of them gets moved. And you look at those home road splits, he was lights out on the road and just got lit up at Great American Small Park. So I think that if he gets moved, you could see his value. He could be a top 100 guy if he gets moved out of Cincinnati. I really believe that. So as my SP4 long term, I'm happy with that.
All right, let's pull up these splits because I remember looking at this at some point last year, late in the season. I was like, wow, these are really bad. So at home last year, he had a 5.63 ERA and on the road, a 2.30 ERA. I mean, he was unusable at home. Like, completely he was like, I don't know, like Jay Happ or Dallas Keuchel every time he pitched at home. Like, that's legitimately how bad he was. Obviously still lots of strikeouts there, 98 strikeouts over 78 in the third innings pitch. So he helps you from that perspective. But yeah, I like the call there. If we can get Tyler Mahle, who is just 27 years old, out of Cincinnati, that could be a huge, huge boost in his fantasy value from a real life, from a redraft and a dynasty perspective. After you took Tyler Mahle, Framber Valdez goes, Yoan Moncada, and Luis Garcia. One more pick, and then you are back up, Eric. And there it is. Gleyber Torres goes off the board. And man, I like Gleyber Torres, much like Cody Bellinger, even more so for Gleyber. Just so hard to figure out, like, what is going on with Gleyber Torres. The power just completely plummeted the past couple of years. He's dealt with like 2 or 3 different COVID situations, so maybe that's something that has affected him. But man, without the bouncy ball, the power for Gleyber has just completely subsided there. All right, after Gleyber, Eric, you selected Josh Lowe with Tampa Bay. What can you tell us about the outfield prospect with the Rays?
Yeah, I love Josh Lowe. He's got plus or better speed, and he's shown the ability to, like, he wants to run. He's been a very efficient base stealer as well. So I think full season could be a 25 to 30 steal guy. Power really started coming along the last couple of years at 18 home runs and they got 22 or 23 this past year. Started hitting the ball in the air more consistently, which really helped. Always had that raw power, but started driving the ball in the air more consistently. That really helped him. Won't be a huge average guy. He's probably a 250, 260 type, but I think if they make, he probably needs a trade of Kevin Kiermaier, but if that does happen, like it's been rumored to, he could be the center fielder, pretty solid in center field defensively as well. And I think 20 homer, 25 steal type of guy. So I like that power speed blend.
All right. Yeah. Josh Lowe, I believe, brother of Nathaniel Lowe, who is no longer in the Tampa Bay organization. So they had Nate Lowe, Brandon Lau, and now Josh Lowe. Kind of confusing. But yeah, I believe brothers of Nathaniel Lowe. Alec Boehm, Marcell Ozuna, Yu Darvish, and Scotty. You sneaky snake. Another prospect for you. You said that you're building for the future, and you take one of the top pitching prospects in the game, Jack Leiter, son of Al Leiter.
Yeah, I know we saw Marcelo Meyer go. I kind of feel like Jack Leiter should be the first player taken from this past draft class. It's between those two, but Leiter's going to be up sooner. And yeah, I mean, he just feels like he's as projectable as pitching prospects get. He had, of course, is the son of Al Leiter, as you mentioned. He's in the Vanderbilt pitching program, the vaunted Vanderbilt pitching program. He's got a full arsenal of pitches already, and should be up very soon. And yeah, I feel like I need if I've got all these long-term bats now, I feel like I need to get a long-term arm in there if I'm gonna set my sights on the future.
All right. I am on the clock here. After you took Jack Leiter, we're seeing some more closers go. Ryan Presley, Jared Walsh, Edwin Diaz. I'm debating if I want to take a starting pitcher. Let's take a look at the team here. I need a second baseman. Not going to do that yet. Outfielder. Yeah, I probably could use another starting pitcher. This would be my 4th starting pitcher. I also have Grayson Rodriguez, who's hanging out. So I will select Sean Manaea. He's a little bit older than you'd probably expect. He's 30 years old. Did some really nice things last year. Velocity was on the rise, more swinging strikes. The strikeouts in general were up. And I think that there is a good chance that he's traded as well. Brad makes his picks so fast. I'm trying to tell everyone about Sean Manaea, and now I got to figure out who to select next. So it's kind of tough. Overall, I like Sean Manaea, and I think if he goes somewhere else to a team that limits or just lowers his sinker usage a little bit, it's a pitch that gets hit really hard, then I think that we could see an even better version of Sean Manaea this upcoming season.
I just realized we're not even halfway through this draft yet.
Oh, geez. Don't say that, Scott. It's going to be a long night here. Long night here on Fantasy Baseball today.
Settle in, fellas.
That's why you should like the video if you haven't already. 97 people watching, 74 likes. Let's get to 100. I have absolutely no idea who I'm going to select.
I basically stopped drafting major leaguers, and we're not even halfway through the draft yet.
Scott, can you pause it for me? Because I don't know who I'm going to draft.
Come on, Frank.
I'm sorry, bud.
Come on, Frank.
Brad, if you're watching, please take more time on your picks so that I can figure out who I want to draft. All right. So I'm scrolling through some dynasty rankings right now. I'm not going to tell you if they're Eric's or if they're Scott's, but I'm going to see what names stand out to me at a position that I need. And I'm scrolling. Let's see. No, don't want to do that. Interesting. He's not in the system yet. I would like to draft him.
I could write him in for you if he's. You're talking about a guy who's unsigned.
Yes.
I know who you're talking about.
Well, I'll just say it because
just say who you're talking about.
Yeah, no one can draft him anyway. It's Seiya Suzuki. So
yeah, that's what I thought you were taking.
Yeah, so I would have taken him here, but not available yet. Oh, am I going to take 2 pitchers? Let's do it. And this one's looking more towards the future, but I'm going to select
I like it.
Michael Kopech.
Yeah.
So I will now have 4 kind of win now pitchers in Manaea, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, and Logan Gilbert. I think Michael Kopech can be a contributor this year. I don't think it's going to be as significant as people think. I saw an interview with their general manager, Rick Hahn, and they basically acknowledge that they don't want to push him too hard this year and that they have aspirations of making a deep postseason run and that they want Michael Kopech healthy, ready to go, and at his best when they're making that run. So I think we see an increase in innings this year, probably gets to like 100. What does that mean? I don't know, 12 to 15 starts, and the rest of the year he's in the bullpen. I think it'll be really good whenever he pitches, but just be realistic with what we're expecting from Michael Kopech this upcoming season. I think long-term, the upside is still fantastic.
Yeah. He was actually, when I took Jack Leiter with my last pick, it was actually Michael Kopech who was at the top of my rankings. Partly, I went Leiter instead because I thought Kopech was more likely to slip through to my next pick, but clearly that didn't happen.
Yeah. So take that, Scott. After I took Michael Kopech, RJ White takes Francisco Alvarez, one of the top catcher prospects in the game with the New York Mets. Lots of power there from Francisco Alvarez. Akil Baddoo, outfielder for the Tigers, of course. Tommy Edman, some speed there. Scotty, you are back on the clock.
Just gonna keep taking them prospects, Frank.
Oh, geez. You're leaning all the way in now.
Why not?
Don't take the ones I want, Scott.
You can't stop me. You can't stop me.
Stop him now.
I got a lot of
that song was in my head too, Frank. That's so weird.
Very nice. Every time I hear it, I think of Shaun of the Dead. Great movie.
I got a lot of infielders, and I actually really like Nick York of the Red Sox and want to take him. Now that I've said that, I probably won't be able to. But I'm gonna take the consensus. The higher ranked of the 2 second base prospects. I'm going to take Nick Gonzalez of the Pirates.
I said don't take the guys I want, Scott, and you did the opposite of that.
Eric, what do you think about Nick York versus Nick Gonzalez from a prospect ranking perspective?
They're very close. I have Nick Gonzalez ranked higher because he's done it longer than Nick York, but New York had that great breakout year. I think you could see some stat lines close to like what Dustin Pedroia used to do, 18 to 20 home runs, 15 to 20 steals, good high average, good on base guy. Gonzalez, he's a good hit tool as well. I think he has a little bit more category juice than Nick York will. So that's why I have him ranked higher, but both very good. I love both of those.
I always worry about the guys who are mainly hyped for their hit tool who have strikeout concerns. And that's where Nick Gonzalez finds himself after his first professional season. He was high class A, so it wasn't even that aggressive a promotion, but 27.4% strikeout rate, still hit 302, and with more power than I think people were expecting. So I don't really think there's anything to worry about, but that strikeout rate does raise some concern for me.
Holy prospects, man. This round has been filled with them. Scott took Nick Gonzalez. Then we see Luis Matos with the Giants, Jason Dominguez with the Yankees, Max Meyer, a pitcher with the Marlins, Ke'Bryan Hayes, and Khalil Watson goes. And then, of course,
Nick York.
We've been talking about.
Spoke it into existence.
I think you spoke all of this into existence, Scott, because you
maybe.
keep saying that these prospects need to go. And I think people might be watching, might be listening to you.
They shun it.
Yes,
I'm a bad influence.
No, I disagree. People should be watching us, and they should be hitting the like button if you haven't already. So we're up to 75. There's 93 people watching. At least 15 of you. No, I didn't do that correctly. 18 of you. Math. I should probably know math, right? Someone who plays fantasy baseball. At least 18 of you have not liked the video yet. So please help us out here if you haven't already. Okay. After Nick York goes Camilo Doval, who is electric. Lots of strikeouts last year, and I believe to be the favorite to be the closer for the Giants. Though, keep in mind, Gabe Kapler, he plays some games at times. Last year, it was mostly Jake McGee, but back in his Phillies days, I'll never forget it. I drafted Hector Neris one year to be my closer in fantasy. I don't know. He sent someone out there in the 9th inning on opening day. I didn't even know was in the bullpen. And it was not Hector Neris. And I was like ripping my hair out. I'm like, It's only opening day, and I've got to deal with this guy all season long. Gabe Kapler, that is. He was awesome last year. Just as from a manager perspective, he was great. And he managed the bullpen very well. They have a strong bullpen too. Jake McGee, Tyler Rogers, but I do think Camilo Duvall has the highest upside of that group. Eric, you are back on the clock here. What are you thinking? And tell us about your last pick here, Brian Hayes. You like the bounce back for him as well?
I do. Hayes has been one I've been warming up to over the last couple of years. I don't think he's an elite ceiling type, but another third baseman. I got two guys there now. One, younger with Hayes, one older with Chris Bryant. Hayes, he can add speed from third base, which is very rare. Could be a 10 to 15 steal guy. The quality of contact has been pretty good as well. 20+ home run guy. And I think he's got to hit high in that Pittsburgh order because they have really nobody else to do so at this point in time. But I think he could have a good amount of runs and RBI, even in that Pittsburgh lineup. He'll have like O'Neal Cruz and Brian Reynolds hitting around him or right in front of him, I should say. And I think there's a solid average there as well. So just a little bit of everything. I think he can be pretty good across the board.
Oof, Patrick Sandoval goes. Like that pick quite a bit. Obviously was awesome when he pitched last year. Monster swinging strike rate. One of the best, probably the best changeup in the game, honestly. It was ridiculous. Keibert Ruiz, so we got a young catcher go. And then Tyler Soderstrom, one of the best catcher prospects in the game. Scotty, it looks like you're struggling. What's up? Uh-oh.
Something's struggling.
Something's going on.
There wasn't enough stress already.
That's Scotty's snipe alert there. He got sniped.
Yeah, I am struggling because Reese White, that prospect guru who's also named White and isn't Scott or RJ, he sniped me again after doing it with Tyler, or what's his name? Not Tyler. Come on. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. Let's take Renfroe. You wanted me to do it, Frank? It's done.
Let's go. It's a guarantee. I feel like every one of these mock drafts, you wind up with Hunter Renfroe, who's now with the Brewers. And
I'm thinking of 3 or 4 players I should have taken instead. There was a lot going on then. But that's fine. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So he took Tyler Soderstrom, Reese White did, from me after taking Tristan Casas from me last pick. So he is blowing up the plan here on me. Yeah, what do you want me to say about Hunter Renfroe? I like him a lot. I wrote about him in 16 undervalued players according to ADP, my latest column up on CBSSports.com. Renfroe is among them. He was the number 19 outfielder in Roto leagues last year. That's kind of the whole case, right? Like, why is he going? Why does nobody want anything to do with him? The power profile's never been in question. He got his strikeout rate down, and that allowed him to hit enough to keep the job, post a respectable batting average. And now he's going to Milwaukee, which has been, like, apart from Colorado, the best place for a hitter to go and see his stat line improved. So I'm all about drafting Renfroe at his ADP or even 30 spots before it.
Yeah, I think it just seems collectively industry-wide that most people are not buying in on what Hunter Renfroe did last year, because it's not like the change of scenery should hurt him. Obviously, I mean, I know obviously playing in Boston, it's having Fenway there. It's good for right-handed power, but either way, I mean, in Milwaukee now, American Family Field. I have to remind myself that it is no longer Miller Park. Still a really good park to hit in, and I think that there's a chance that this lineup is really good for the Brewers. It obviously depends on Christian Yelich and what he does, but I like the Brewers so much that I'm going to take one right now. And I'm going to take Luis Arias, who is just 24 years old. And I've talked about him so much already on the podcast about his potential to break out this year, what he did in the second half. Plate discipline, the walks went up, strikeouts went down, hard contact went up, more line drives. He was really solid last year, and that was with being moved around the field, not playing every day. Now penciled in as the starting third baseman for the Milwaukee Brewers. Again, strong lineup, good park to hit in, and he's young enough where I could see him taking that next step. Scott, I'm going to say something crazy because I know that you're not in on Arias the way that I am. Mm-hmm. This year's Austin Riley, Luis Arias.
Oh, come on.
I mean, let's be honest, Scott. Austin Riley, he's just a jag anyway.
Stop it. You and Chris, you guys should have gotten ripped harder for that on Twitter than you did.
Honestly, I really thought we were going to, and we deserve to. We honestly did deserve to.
Yeah, no, I mean he just doesn't impact the ball that hard enough. Like I see him as like a better version of Jerks and Profar.
Oh,
So
come on,
that's a very different. Like he's rightfully positioned as a utility infielder. Should have decent pop. Maybe a comparison people can relate to more is like Eduardo Escobar, but I think even a little less power than that. So
Yeah, that's a
useful,
good
but
one.
not. There's I don't see a ton of upside there.
Hey, Eduardo Escobar is a solid player, man. So
He is.
put some respect on Luis Arias. Eric, what do you think about Arias? Obviously, a former top prospect and someone who he's taken a while to come around here, but he was really solid last year. Do you think he could take another step?
Maybe a baby step. I don't think. I think the changes he made last year, the improvements, I think are legit. I just don't know if there's like that next level for him to unlock. Like I think there's a solid hit tool, solid power. You can do a little bit of speed, but I think maybe like a 270, 18 to 20 homer, 5 steal type is probably what he's looking like. So maybe he's a Eduardo Escobar. I think that's a likely outcome, but I just don't see anything more than that though.
All right, maybe he's not Austin Riley, but maybe
I love Austin Riley too.
Maybe a Jorge Polanco, like a poor man's Jorge Polanco. Something like
that. that's pretty solid. I can see that.
270, 20. I think he can get to 25 home runs. I think he can get there, and 6 to 8 steals, something like that. I think that'd be pretty good as either your middle infielder, corner infielder, with the opportunity for more. After Luis Urias, we see Wilson Contreras go. Jesus Sanchez, love it. Love the Jesus Sanchez pick. Mike Clevenger, Jordan Lawler to Scott. So another prospect, one of the young shortstops drafted in the MLB draft last year. One of the top picks there by the Arizona Diamondbacks. CJ Cron, the profit pocket. Clayton Kershaw goes. Tanner Houck. And Eric, you are on the clock.
Another very David Mendelson pick. I knew he was going Tanner Houck there. I love Tanner Houck too. I probably would have taken Tanner Houck if he didn't, but I will go with another pitcher here who I've been getting a ton in redrafts this year. I think he's going to bounce back. New organization that has developed pitching very well over the last handful of years. Good stuff. Hard throwing young lefty. Give me some Jesus Luzardo here.
Oh, now I really want to hear your thoughts on Luzardo because I follow you on Twitter and all draft season so far. Might not be draft season for everyone, but for some people who've been drafting, I know that you've been taking him a lot, and I have a few shares myself as well, basically for the reasons that you mentioned, right? Like the Marlins have done a great job developing pitchers, and I know it's only one start, but like the final start that he made last year, he was fantastic. So a weird season, he broke his hand, he slammed his hand down, like playing Fortnite, he lost or something and broke his hand. So it was a weird season for him, but I like the potential on a bounce back here for Jesus Luzardo.
I do as well. He's got the premium velocity from the left side, has 2 good breaking balls. The changeup misses bats as well. All the ingredients are there. He's got to make some tweaks to command the fastball a bit better. Obviously, it's not all about velocity, but the fact that he already can miss bats with 2 pitches at a good rate. I said, I have faith in Miami. I'm drinking that Kool-Aid. I love Sandy Alcantara. I love Max Meyer, their top pitching prospect. I love Yuri Perez, another pitching prospect for them. So I'm drinking that Kool-Aid. So I have a good feeling that they can right the ship here. And his value in redraft league, he's going to pick like 300, give or take. So I think my last draft that I'm still in was the first draft I did not get Luzardo this year. So yeah, I'm definitely buying a big bounce back for him.
And much like Jesus Luzardo, not that Mitch Keller has shown us anything at the major league level, but some people excited about what they've seen on Twitter recently. Mitch Keller, throwing upwards of 100 miles per hour. Again, he just hasn't really done anything in the majors. And he was someone that I thought he was going to be good. And he has this awesome slider, but can't command his fastball, struggles with walks, doesn't get enough strikeouts. So it hasn't been there yet for Mitch Keller, but some hype making the rounds here on the young pitcher. Maybe he can bounce back with the Pittsburgh Pirates. After Mitch Keller goes Jaron Duran, Kyle Lewis, Tarek Skubal, and Eric, you select Brandon Marsh. I like the speed specifically for Brandon Marsh, but struggled big time with the strikeouts. Was that an issue for him in the minor leagues as well? And do you think that it's something that will continue to hurt him moving forward?
It wasn't a big issue. I think if I remember I was looking into his profile recently, and I think he was like around like 24, 25%. So not terrible, not great. Maybe he's in that mid 20 range, which limits the average a little bit, but the contact skills are pretty solid. The speed is there to steal 20 plus, and the raw power is there. And you saw some of the quality of contact metrics he had last year. They were very good. So I think he can take that next step in terms of power. Just hits too many line drives, doesn't hit enough, balls in the air. So if he gets the launch angle up a bit, I think you could see, a guy that flirts with 2020 annually. So, I like Marsh here. I said maybe the K rate is a little higher than you'd like to see, but I don't think it's a stick above like 30% or anything like that.
All right, Brandon Marsh. After that pick, Jose Miranda, who was amazing for the Minnesota Twins last year in their minor league system. Kind of positionless, but if he hits, he's going to get an opportunity to play. They'll find somewhere on the field to play him or just use him at DH. So I think we see Jose Miranda pretty soon with the Minnesota Twins. Michael Busch goes, a prospect with the Dodgers, Nathan Eovaldi. And Scotty, you are back on the clock.
Yeah, I do like Michael Busch, who just went. Great on base skills. I don't know that he'll translate as well to this format since so much of it is in on base skills, but power too. What's interesting here in round 18, Joey Votto still being available, and I think Joey Votto is one of the most undervalued players in all of fantasy this year, and even in a dynasty league like this, to get him in round 18 when he might be a top 5 first baseman. I mean, it's hard to pass that up. But if I am basically eliminating my chances of contending this year, he's just a player I have no business taking at any point, right?
Yeah.
So I'm actually taking Jorge Soler instead, who's surprisingly only 29, and in the second half last year showed the sort of power potential that made him a 48 homer guy previously in 2019. I think he still has a ton of upside, and I need upside in the outfield. I need some options in the outfield beyond just prospects. Right now, all I have is Renfroe, and now I'm adding Soler. Of course, I have Zach Veen and Corbin Carroll, but I 5 outfield spots to fill if I want to contend next year. I need some guys who can potentially outperform their ADP, and I think Soler is exactly that sort of player.
All right, I am debating a few different options here. I'm going to select Eduardo Rodriguez, who is still just 28 years old, and the surface numbers from last year, they were not bad. You can actually see him here up on the screen. 4.74 ERA, a 1.39 whip. They were actually quite bad, but the underlying metrics loved Eduardo Rodriguez. So a lot like Aaron Nola, if you want to trust the process, then based on those numbers, hopefully Eduardo Rodriguez can get back on track. It helps that he's moving away from the American League East as well. So now with the Detroit Tigers, bigger park to pitch in, not as stiff competition in that division as well. So I do like the possibility of a breakout here for Erod. Much like Joey Votto, who you mentioned, Scott, who actually just went after you mentioned him. Josh Donaldson goes here to start round 19. So some of these veterans that get devalued in a dynasty startup, but should produce for at least this year, maybe the next 2 years, going very late in this draft. So I selected Eduardo. There was another pick that I saw that I wanted to make. Oh, it was Tyler Stevenson. Say what you want about Tyler Stevenson. He's overvalued in redraft right now. He's still pretty young. He's 25 years old, and I think strong batting average. I don't know that the power is ever going to reach the level that maybe some people expect. I mean, he's like a big guy, but he doesn't really hit for much power. Can he hit 275, 15 home runs in that ballpark in Cincinnati? Now as my second catcher along with Will Smith, sure, I'll take him in round 19, pick 218. I think this is a perfect to get one Tyler Stevenson. Who else went last round? Let's catch people up here. Scott, after you took Jorge Soler, we saw outfield prospect with Cleveland, George Valera go, Joey Votto, Cade Cavalli, who was the, I believe, first-round pick for the Nationals a couple years ago. Really hard thrower. I think, Eric, do you think there's a chance we see Cade Cavalli this season with the Nationals?
I do, probably later on, but I don't see a big impact. His command, when I saw him live earlier in 2021, his command kind of worried me, and that kind of backs up what I saw with a lot of the other video I watched of him later on the season from other starts. So I do think we'll see him, June, July, August or so, but I just don't see an impact this year.
All right, so I took Tyler Stevenson over Joey Bart. Maybe that wasn't the smartest thing. Yeah, Joey Bart, a better prospect, more power for sure. Probably has a chance to be a better impact player overall. So
I think I would have taken Stevenson too.
Yeah, it's
I have a lot of questions about Joey Bart. I mean, for a catcher, the threshold to be relevant is so low. I just don't know that he has. I'm not confident he's going to be more than just relevant, because the power tool is the only one that I feel like is as far along as you want it to be for his age.
All right. After Joey Bart goes Matt Chapman, Scott, someone I know who we just spoke about yesterday on the third base preview, who you do like quite a bit. Were you looking at Matt Chapman yourself at all?
No, I wasn't. I have my short-term third baseman in Arenado. I have my long-term third baseman, Jordan Walker. I went Jordan Romano here, who, most of the closers that are left are old. He's not. He's only 28. I suppose the reason he lasted this long is because people aren't confident he's going to hold down that job long-term for the Blue Jays, but it's not because of ability, and they haven't signed anyone to replace him yet. So I'm going to hope he keeps the job and becomes a long-term save source for me with good strikeout numbers too.
Jordan Romano is awesome, but I do worry, which you kind of touched on, Scott, that they can sign somebody else with maybe more experience. Maybe, a Kenley Jansen or maybe they trade for like a Craig Kimbrell. I think it's possible if they want to bolster that bullpen, but
they do seem like the team in position to make either of those moves.
For sure. Yeah, they do have an excess of young talent there. After Jordan Romano, we see Kobe Mayo go, Josiah Gray, Aaron Ashby, someone who people are very excited about this year. Eric, you select Alejandro Kirk. Then we see Royce Lewis, who's coming back from, I believe is it a torn ACL with Royce Lewis? I think it's a torn ACL.
I believe it was, yeah.
Yeah. Tristan McKenzie, who I do like as a breakout candidate this year. He's still young, has to be more consistent, a lot like what we said about Logan Gilbert. But man, when he is on, he's filthy. He's got some nasty. So on. Tristan McKenzie, he is great. And then Aaron Savale, someone who could provide some innings there as well. Anthony Rizzo goes, and Eric, you are back on the clock. Who you got?
I was debating between some pitchers, but I'm gonna take the last of the elite prep shortstops from this last class, and this will make my good friend and co-host on Fantrax Toolshed very happy. I'm going Brady House.
I was just thinking it's been too long with House.
I know.
I'm
surprised he's with how early Mayer and Lawler and Watson went. I thought he would have gone a round or two ago, so I'll take him here.
He is my least favorite of the four.
Same here, but I don't think there's a huge gap though. I think they're all pretty close. Like his power is insane. Like you can make that Jordan Walker type leap this year.
I've said about him, he's my least favorite of the four, but his power is probably the best singular tool between the four.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Brady House was just selected by Eric. Eric, you also took Alejandro Kirk, who he's really good when he plays. The StatCast data loves him. The problem, the Blue Jays also have Danny Jansen. They have Gabriel Moreno, who's on the way. Is this a play where you're hoping Alejandro Kirk has actually moved to another team?
It is, yeah. And you heard some of those rumblings before the lockout started a couple months ago. So I'm hoping maybe it's not, this spring, maybe it's midseason, maybe it's even next offseason. But yeah, I just the overall talent is just so good with Kirk. Like he could be a top 5 shortstop if given a full-time role. And, maybe you could see him DH a little bit this year, still get maybe 4 starts a week, get up near 400 plate appearances. And I think if given that amount of playing time, he could be a pretty good catcher. High average, great approach, solid power as well. I think he could be a good one.
All right. Yeah. After you took Brady House, we see Bobby Dahlbeck go, someone who has a lot of power. I know it feels like I'm throwing a lot of questions your way, Eric, but considering, you're a Red Sox fan.
Yep.
What are your expectations here for the Red Sox first base situation? Because I've seen other people in the industry on Bobby Dahlbeck this year. The power is immense. There's no doubt about it. And he made some adjustments in the second half last year in terms of limiting the strikeouts. So you love to see that. But I have to imagine that once Tristan Casas is ready, this team is going to promote him. So what happens then?
Yeah, though that's the $1 million question. One I've asked myself many times. I love Dahlbeck too. I've said for a while ever since I saw him back down here in Double A Portland that his right-handed power, the way he can just pull the ball and hit the ball in the air consistently with that authority, perfect fit for Fenway. So I love him in general, but I heard some slight trade rumblings. Maybe they deal him for a pitcher or a bullpen arm just to free up the space for Tristan Cassis. But maybe JD Martinez doesn't stay healthy and they can use one at DH. I think there's some moving around that could happen here. I don't think we'll see Cassis until probably around the All-Star break. They've kind of been slow churning him, so maybe they give him a good amount of time at AAA to start the year. So they have a handful of months to figure this out, but I think you could see Dahlbeck traded. If not, it's a logjam. I don't know how they're going to work it out, but we'll see. Both very exciting players for sure, though.
All right. After Dahlbeck goes Luke Voigt, Joe Ryan, Scotty selects Lourdes Gurriel. So adding to that.
I was really surprised he was still there. I don't know why I took Jorge Soler over Lourdes Gurriel, frankly. But,
look, Gurriel is so inconsistent, like month to month, but when he clicks, he clicks. He's just got to be able to do that a little bit more consistency. And obviously getting any exposure to the Blue Jays, especially this late in the draft, is something that's pretty exciting to do. John Gray goes and Marcus Stroman as well. And then Mitch Garver. So another catcher off the board here. And I don't know, close your eyes and take your closer pick. Who do you want? Kenley Jansen, Will Smith, or Aroldis Chapman? Chapman scares me to death. Kenley Jansen is 34 years old. Will Smith was kind of shaky at times last year. He's 32 years old. I mean, this is the nature of the position and the format playing Dynasty. So I'll select Kenley Jansen. I think at least for this year and maybe one more, he'll probably be, a top-ish closer, like a top 12 type closer. Not that it's great, but he's solid. All right. One pick after I took Kenley Jansen, Aroldis Chapman goes. And man, he was just so bad after the sticky substance crackdown. And like he clearly was using stuff because we know that it was in the Yankees clubhouse. Like Garrett Cole was using it. It wouldn't surprise me if other players on the team were using it as well. Aroldis Chapman's spin rates, his spin rates went way down. His walks went way up. He could not control where he was throwing the ball. That's usually the case, but it was even more exaggerated after the sticky substance crackdown. So I'm pretty worried, and they have some strong options behind him as well. Jonathan Loaizaga and Chad Green still on the team there with the Yankees.
I will point out that I never pointed out when you rail against Chapman most of the time, but things went really bad in June, but then in his final 29 appearances, a 1.95 ERA. He still walked way too many guys. The whip was high. But 1.95 ERA in his final 29 appearances with 48 strikeouts and 27 2/3 innings. So like that stuff will still play. But yeah, he needs to know where he's throwing the ball.
For sure. I am going to select an outfielder that I think has probably been here too long as well. A lot like Lourdes Gurriel. He's getting up there, 30 years old now. Eddie Rosario. Overall, it was a weird full season for him, but then he did click in the playoffs, and we were reminded of the hitter that he can be. He's a free agent. We'll see if he resigns with the Braves or winds up somewhere else. Probably better off as a DH at this point, but there will be the DH in the National League, so that's good for Eddie Rosario and many other players. Nelson Cruz, he has 15 other teams now that he can potentially sign with in 2022. All right, let's check in. Let's check in on your team, Scotty. I know lots of prospects, and of course, you're trying to fill out the roster so that you can field a somewhat competitive team this season as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think the chances of me finishing first this year are pretty low, as I've pointed out throughout. Well, since about the midway point in the draft. My bench there is already full of minor leaguers, as you can see.
Oof.
So I'm filling in my lineup spots now, and I don't want any ancient guys that I can't count on to be of any use to me next year.
Scott, I was gonna say take Marquez for Nick here. He couldn't draft him, but it happened. So
okay, all right, cool. So that's what I'm thinking about right now is players who are already useful but aren't ancient, and there are a lot of ancient guys that are interesting. Nelson Cruz, Craig Kimbrell. Craig Kimbrell's 33, so is he ancient and is right on the border there. Adam Wainwright, Justin Turner. I just don't feel like any of them I should be looking their way at all,
Yeah. Does not make sense unless, I mean, I guess the only way you do it, Scott, is the thinking, and this is like, if it's actually a real dynasty league, is you draft those guys. If they get off to a good start, maybe you can flip them for something of value later on in the year. I guess that would be the only thought with that. But yeah, it's not like you're obviously drafting them to help you win this season or anything like that. All right. After I took Eddie Rosario, we see Chris Taylor go and Herman Marquez. Seems like Anthony might be timing out here. John means business. They're moving.
So he does.
Moving the left field fences back in Camden. And they're moving them back a lot. So something that definitely should help.
It's like 30, 35 feet or something like that. And they're making the wall higher by a handful of feet too. It's guys like Mount Castle is one that I kind of downgraded the most. Is what I think he would have lost like 5 or 6 home runs last year, just looking at where his home runs were. So yeah, that's definitely not a minor change.
Yeah. Hurts the right-handed power hitters there, but definitely helps someone like John Means. Scotty, you're up. What do we do?
I feel like my long-term hitting situation is in better shape than my long-term pitching situation right now. I got a Studley top 3 in Walker Buehler, Max Fried, and Kevin Gausman, but I don't have a 4th starting pitcher yet. We saw Severino going round 13, Clevenger going round 17. I'm taking Noah Syndergaard here in round 21. Still only 29. So, provided the Tommy John surgery did the trick, I hope to keep him in my rotation for a while.
Using my queue.
There you go.
Oof. All righty. As we've said multiple times throughout the course of this, if you haven't liked the video already, please do so. 93 people here watching. We appreciate you. It's pretty late here. We just crossed 10 p.m. Eastern time and 82 likes. So a few people watching that maybe have not liked the video already. So please help us out. Tap that subscribe button, tap the like button, and subscribe if you haven't already as well. After Noah Syndergaard goes Robbie Grossman, some modest power and speed, maybe a 15-15 kind of guy. Garrett Hampson, Henry Davis, the top pick in the MLB draft last year, a catcher with the Pirates. Jordan Montgomery goes to Eric here. Eric, what do you think about not just Henry Davis, but really the state of the catcher position for prospects? It feels like we're in great hands from a fantasy perspective moving forward. There's all these awesome catchers and really they're all awesome hitters too. So I kind of think like from a fantasy perspective, we're going to be good for a while at the catcher position.
We definitely are. That's what I was writing up my top catching prospects article. Month and a half ago at this point, and yeah, it's very, very exciting. It was more exciting than first base by a substantial margin. Yeah, at the major league level, you get the studs, a couple other solid options, but we get Keibert Ruiz, Alejandro Kirk, plus Henry Davis, Moreno, Soderstrom, even though he probably moves up from behind the position, Alvarez, so many others. Harry Ford, though he might move off the position as well too. But yeah, the catching talent in the minor leagues right now is, I've been writing for 5 years now, and I think it's the best, crop of catching prospects for offensive purposes that I've seen in the last 5 years. So yeah, obviously Adley Rutschman kind of leads the way. Of course, he could be the number one catcher for a long time. So yeah, it's in a good spot. I think it's going to be definitely not as bad as it's been over the last half decade or so.
I don't know exactly how long I've been doing prospect rankings, but this is the best catcher crop.
Yeah.
It's been at least 10 years, and this is the best catcher crop I can ever remember seeing. I think I had 11 catchers in my top 100, which for a fantasy top 100 is hard to justify. And yet I wanted to have even more.
Right.
So it's in really good shape.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. Like we're seeing just athleticism across the board in all sports just improve. But I think, for baseball players as well, and especially these catchers, right? A lot of these guys, I mean, really, really great athletes. Eric, I know you mentioned Harry Ford, someone who's been talked up as, having potentially some speed too. So I'm not sure if he stays at the position at catcher, but yeah, really strong athlete there. And he's not the only one. There's a lot of names there. So a lot to be excited about moving forward, not just for Dynasty, but, for the next handful of years. It seems like hopefully some of these guys can hit and help us out because we need it. We definitely could use some help at the catcher position. I know there's like a top 5 or 6 that I like, but then it looks like it falls off a cliff quite a bit there. Let's catch people up. What else happened here? We saw you took Jordan Montgomery. Yeah, that was the last one I mentioned. All right, so Craig Kimbrell, who I believe will be traded, Ramon Laureano and Andrew Benintendi, then Michael Conforto, who is currently a free agent. Eric, you selected Sonny Gray. We'll see if he can get back on track as well. Christian Javier, not really sure what the role will be for him yet, but there is some upside. Eduardo Escobar, Nelson Cruz, Scotty, you select Ty France. Harrison Bader goes, and another closer in Will Smith. I may or may not have been getting ready to take Will Smith.
So you're going to have to explain to me the justification. Luis Arias in round 17 versus Ty France in round 22. I just feel like the hitter profile for France is much sturdier and more promising. Now, he doesn't have the premium eligibility, I guess, that Arias has. That Arias is eligible at shortstop and more notably third base. France is first and second. Probably going to be a first baseman moving forward, I would say. But like really looks like a really safe source of batting average with 20 to 25 homers a year, I think is what we're looking at with him.
Yeah, maybe. I know that the Statcast numbers didn't like Ty France as much. He does hit quite a bit of line drives, so I'm thinking maybe like a 270 hitter, low 20s and home runs, and maybe that's the same expectation that I have for Luis Arias. I just think the prospect pedigree that was associated with Arias, for me at least, says
it was a great prospect. It was a long time ago that he was a great prospect.
It's true. It's fair, but
his profile has changed quite a bit from those days too.
I think it lends itself to him just having more upside still. Like, not just long term, maybe even this year. I probably rank Ty France higher, but
I will point out Ty France hit 399 one year in the minors.
He did, yes.
That was the year that like everybody was destroying.
Yeah, that was 2019 when.
Yeah, and that was mostly in the PCL too, so which definitely helped.
Still, 399.
Yeah, still, yeah. That's I don't care what your field you're playing on. That's still impressive.
That is crazy indeed. All right, I can use a middle infielder or a corner infielder here. Some interesting names. Some guys.
I like the Brett Beatty pick that Brad Johnson just made. Is it Brett Beatty or Brett Batty?
Brett Beatty.
Yeah, it's Beatty.
Okay. All right. I saw somebody trying to make a Batman pun, like a Gotham City pun with Brett Beatty, and I was like, I'm not sure that works. So, okay, yeah, it just seems like given his prospect stature, seems like he's going pretty late here.
Yeah, for sure. One of the top third base prospects in the game. And I know that the numbers didn't really reflect this. And Eric, you could probably talk more about this, but in the AFL, like he didn't hit for a ton of power, but apparently his exit velocities were just like off the charts. Like he was just like when he was making contact, he was absolutely crushing the ball. So I don't know if you had a chance to see Brett Beatty, but what do you know about him, Eric?
Yeah, no, I saw him 3 times when I was out there at the First Pitch Arizona Conference, Baseball HQ puts on. Yeah, he was scalding line drives all over the field to both gaps. I think I had a couple. I forget the exact exit velos, but they were. I think there was like a 109 and a 111 or something. There was 2 right around like 109, 110 in that range. He did strike out a bit too much though. That was kind of concerning, and I want to see if that is something that carries over into 2022. But probably starts at Double-A, so I'll probably be able to get a chance to get some live looks at him early on in the season. But definitely solid hit tool. I think there's a good power, 20 home run type of bat. Maybe add in a handful of steals, but I want to see where that K rate goes. That's the one thing I'm concerned about right now.
Alrighty. After Brett Beatty went, I took Colton Wong. He's going to be my middle infielder. I think he's not a sexy pick by any means, but 15-15 kind of guy leading off for that Brewers lineup, which I do like quite a bit. So maybe if he could stay healthy, 90 plus runs there, I think that's attainable for Colton Wong. After he goes, Ian Happ, Hyunjin Ryu, Anthony DeSclafani, Scotty, you select Tony Gonsolin. We see Avisail Garcia and Justin Turner go. Scott, we haven't done our starting pitcher position preview yet, but I have a feeling that there will be some mention of Tony Gonsolin. It feels like he's being forgotten just a little bit right now, and the Dodgers could use some help in their rotation.
Dodgers need him more than ever. That's the main thing. I liked him to break out last year. It turned out Julio Urias had a dedicated spot, and Gonsolin had some health issues, so it didn't work out for him. that slider splitter combo is great. You look at his career ERA between 3 very short seasons, but still, if you get that in the starting rotation, he's potentially another stud. I like the upside a lot. There's a lot of risk, I guess, that he becomes forever stuck in the swingman role where he's not able to make much of a fantasy impact. But with Max Scherzer gone, with Clayton Kershaw likely gone, Trevor Bauer, who knows what's going on with him. But like Gonsolin, I feel like if there's ever a time for him to become a fixture in the Dodgers rotation, it's this year. So yeah, I like him as a sleeper, and dynasty context only helps with that.
All right, pick 273, we see MJ Melendez, another one of those catchers, which we didn't even mention. Massive, massive power for MJ Melendez. Where's he going to play? I think that's a pretty fair question. Daniel Espino goes to Eric. Kyle Hendricks goes, Josh Rojas, Asa Lacy, Luis Patino, and Bryson Stott. All right, Eric, so tell us about these two prospects that you wound up with, Daniel Espino and Bryson Stott. I believe last time we did a dynasty mock, we had Jesse Roche on here. He also selected Daniel Espino. So what do you like about him and Bryson Stott?
Yeah, Jesse, my former podcast co-host from the now debunked 5-Tool podcast. I love Espino. I think there's a good chance that, fast forward a year, we're doing this again next spring, that Espino could be the number 1 pitching prospect in baseball. He's that good. He's got 4 above average or plus pitches, headlined by that fastball, really knows how to spin a breaking ball, very athletic kid, and the command and control has come along as you would expect. Cleveland has that really good track record developing pitching prospect, as we all know. So yeah, I really love Espino. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. Though I'm really mad that Nate Pearson just won. I thought he'd fall a little bit more. But then Bryson Stott too. Bryson Stott is not a sexy prospect by any means, but he's going to be a guy that hits high in the order, probably right in front of Bryce Harper. High on base skills, 15 to 20 home runs, 15 to 20 steals, good average. He'll be a guy that scores a ton of runs with his OBP skills. So very kind of underrated pick there.
All right. Yeah. I know that when we had the Welsh on to recap the AFL, he came away very impressed by Bryson Stott. So a name to remember, and I think someone that we see this season with the Phillies. Mark Canna goes, Nate Pearson, Cal Quantrill, and Scotty, you are back up. What are we doing?
I feel like oh my goodness, he's still out there?
No, I don't do it. Don't take him.
I'm going to.
No.
Why is he still out there? What is going on here?
I don't know.
I'm intrigued to see who he's going to go with.
We're all rightfully leery of what he did last year. But pick 283.
Are you going Adolis Garcia?
A 30 homer, 15 steal guy a year ago?
As you said the word leery.
Need.
Yeah, as you just said leery of what he did last year, I'm like, oh, that's Adolis Garcia.
Yeah, I don't even know. I feel like my rankings in the draft room aren't right because I do not have him ranked that low. What's going on here? Anyway, that's a different story. But yeah, no, I feel like he should have gone 100 picks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, at this point, I'm very concerned with that approach. But at this point, the power speed at pick, what was that, 284? You can't, the upside is a good pick there.
I was going to say, Scott, I know a guy. I could talk to someone about the rankings if you need me.
I'll double check before I throw any accusations around. That Adolis Garcia behind Charlie Blackmon in a Roto league doesn't seem right to me. Who made these rankings?
All right. I was looking at someone before. Let's see if it looks like he's still out there. I think I can use some pop on this team right now. Actually, there's some really good corner infielders left.
There are.
And I have him ranked lower. I'm going to take him anyway. I feel like my team, this is what's so interesting about Roto rankings in particular. Just because you have a player ranked higher, it comes down to what you need on your team at that point. So I think I need some power, and I think Suarez is the best available power source of these corner infielders. So I will select him. A little bit older now, 30 years old. Massive September last year. I don't know if that's going to carry over, but he hit something like 370, 1200 OPS, a bunch of home runs, has not been able to get healthy since he had shoulder surgery back in 2020. And, he was playing off position last year. He's asked to play shortstop instead of third base. So just a weird season all around. Still plays in Cincinnati. Great ballpark to hit in. I think he gives you 30 plus home runs. What's the batting average at this point? Can we get 240 plus? I'd be pretty happy with that if we can get 240. I just don't know how realistic that is. So we'll see. All right, let's see these other draft picks. I mentioned earlier, Nate Pearson went. Cal Quantrill. Scotty, you selected Adolis Garcia. Brandon Belt, another corner infield option there. I think big pop. How much can he stay on the field? Doesn't play against lefties all the time either, but a very solid pick at this point. Ryan McMahon, Jose Urquidy. I took Eugenio Suarez, and Drew Rasmussen was one of the picks here for Brad Johnson. I think I could use another prospect. Scrolling through, let's see who stands out to me. Is this guy still available? I feel like I didn't see him drafted yet.
I'm having that feeling a lot in this draft. I know everything's kind of wonky because it's Dynasty.
Yeah.
But I'm getting a lot of, is this guy still available?
I don't know. Yeah, he actually is still available. So am I on the clock yet?
You are.
I am.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, I think most everybody had him in like their top 20 last year, right?
Yeah.
And he was considered the second best talent after Torkelson in the 2020 draft, but like it was such a discouraging debut. Just very little power that he showed, and I think the Blue Jays' willingness to give him up in the Jose Barrios deal after just taking him so early in the previous draft. The one thing he does really well is get on base, but of course that's kind of wasted in this format. Darn it, Nicky Lopez went.
Yeah. Last year,
that's who I was going to take before I spotted Adolis Garcia there.
By the way, the person we're talking about is Austin Martin. He was traded over
sorry.
I don't think we mentioned his name.
That was the prospect we were talking about.
Traded to the Twins in the Jose Barrios trade. Bounces around a little bit, plays some outfield, plays some middle infield. He hit 270 between two AA teams, obviously in the two different organizations. Only 5 home runs, but with a 414 on base percentage and 14 steals. Eric, where are you at on Austin Martin? Just based on what we saw last year, I know it was his first year in the minors, but do you think it actually gets better from here?
I do. Yeah, I saw him early on in the season when he was still in the Toronto organization. I think it was in like May or so. And yeah, there was how much he impacts the ball is my question. The context goes are solid. The on base goes, as you mentioned, are good. Solid speed as well. Could be a 20 steal guy with a high average, high OBP. But I wonder is he just a 10 homer guy? But at the same time, when you add 10 home runs into everything else I just said, he's still a very good all around prospect. And I think his value has kind of dipped to the point where he's a good buy right now in dynasty leagues. Everyone's kind of dropped him down the rankings a bit, some more than others. But yeah, I think he's actually a good value right now. So
we're still talking about Martin.
Yeah, Austin Martin.
Okay.
I think he's a solid. He's probably gonna be out fairly soon. Maybe not this year, but early 2023. So talent and proximity. I think it's a solid pick.
All right. After I selected him, Trey Mancini goes. Nicky Lopez, Travis d'Arnaud. Scotty selects Miles Straw. It is pretty late. I mean, it's pick 294 at this point, round 20.
Right. Yeah, I was cursing Nicky Lopez, the Nicky Lopez pick, because he's one of my favorites to take late after the reliable power sources are gone. But part of the reason I like Nicky Lopez so much is because he typically goes 100 spots after Miles Straw. So
true.
Miles Straw is still out there. Look, I need outfield help more. I guess that's I should just take him. And honestly, Frank, suddenly looking at my roster, I don't know that I can't compete this year. I mean, I have no bench. But the lineup is looking, it's a cromulent lineup. Perfectly cromulent lineup, as they'd say on The Simpsons.
Let's see who you're working with here. You got Matt Olson, Brandon Lau, Nolan Arenado, Trey Turner. It's pretty damn good infield. Brendan Rodgers, Ty France, Jorge Soler, Hunter Renfroe, Lourdes Gurriel, Adolis Garcia, Miles Straw. It is kind of interesting. I mean, you basically just drafted like a bunch of, I don't want to call them rejects, but it kind of feel like they're just getting pushed down in this format because, it's a dynasty league, but they seem like they're players that could contribute. So,
right.
Interesting.
Right. Like I don't look at, and look, my lineup's not completely full. I still need a utility bat, a second catcher. I still need 3 pitcher spots filled, but Like I don't see anyone in my lineup right now that's like, man, it's embarrassing to have him as a starter, which is what you'd expect when you filled out your entire 7-man bench before drafting your 10th starting player. Yeah, I don't know. I feel pretty good about it.
All right. After you selected Miles Straw, Gary Sanchez, Ahmed Rosario, Michael Brantley, Garrett Whitlock goes to Eric here. Steven Strasburg, I mean, obviously he's coming back from a tough injury, but it's pretty late here. It's around 25. Nick Madrigal, Elias Diaz, Kevin Biggio, Frankie 2 hits. Frank Schwindel goes to Eric Cross. I love it. And then Mike Soroka, another interesting buy, I guess, from a dynasty perspective, round 26. That's a good buy. I like that. Eric, what role does Garrett Whitlock play this year? Like, I feel like he can be in the rotation and make, 25 plus starts, or he can be the closer and get 25 plus saves. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, that's a $1 million question here in Boston. I think a lot of that's going to come down to what Boston does once the lockout finally ends and who they go out and get. I think they're still going to be in the market for another arm, especially in the bullpen. They definitely need another bullpen arm, but I think just long term, well, maybe his short term value and situation is a little cloudy. Long term, Whitlock is going to make an impact, whether that's as a closer or as a rotation arm. If I had to lean one or the other, probably lean the rotation, but he's a very talented arm, one of the 3 or 4 best arms on the Red Sox in general, behind like Sale and Eovaldi and Tanner Houck. So I think he's going to have good value long term, regardless of the role. So I think that was a good spot to pick him at here.
And Frank Schwindel, I mean, he's just a fun player to discuss because this mid-career breakout, he's been a journeyman. He's like 29 years old, but you look at the minor league profile and he's always made a lot of contact, hit for batting average, modest power. He was awesome with the Chicago Cubs last year. I think he started 55 games with them. He had multiple hits in 25 of those games. So that's why I call him Frankie 2 hits. This guy was awesome last year. And like, there's really not much risk in round 26 of this draft. Maybe he turns into a pretty damn good player for the next 3-4 years. Who knows?
Yeah, and even if it is just a couple of years of good production, like they don't really, unless they go on a spending spree, there's not really any competition for him, to get out of that lineup right now. A lot of their top prospects are at the lower levels, a few years away. So I can see him sticking as their starting first baseman for the next at least 2-3 years. And yeah, you said the minor league profile is very good, hit for average, some solid pop as well. He's a hit in the middle of that Cubs order, good hitter's park, especially in the summertime there when the wind's blowing out. Yeah, I like the profile.
I'm just going to add a bunch of Homer prospect picks to my queue. If anyone wants to draft them, go ahead. But I'm just going to leave them here just in case I need a prospect to draft at some point. It feels like pretty late for either one of these guys to be available. Oswald Peraza and Trey Sweeney are who I'm referring to, of course.
Peraza's good. I love Peraza.
Trey Sweeney he can't be added to my queue for some reason, but we'll figure it out. Scott, I love how a couple of rounds ago, you said, oh man, I don't think this is the right team to draft Adam Wainwright. And now you're slowly talking yourself into contention and you select Adam Wainwright.
Yeah. No, it seems like there's a path now to contend. Adam Wainwright was a top 10 pitcher in this format last year, amazingly, but was pretty much exactly the same in 2022. Nobody gave it any credit because it was a 60-game season, but then when he does the same thing last year, all right, maybe he's figured out how to be a top of the rotation guy again. And with all the innings he gets, it's going to add up to a good number of strikeouts, even though the rate isn't that great. We're beyond pick 300 here. If it's this year and I'm not able to contend with him and I just lose him, I don't think I lose much because we're basically at the end of the draft at this point.
For sure. Yeah. After Adam Wainwright goes Huascar Ynoa. I think also an interesting pick at this point. Oh, I'm on the clock. I should probably draft someone.
By the way, a couple picks before, I had 2 big reactions to 2 of the 3 picks before my Wainwright pick, which were Mike Soroka, who I wanted to take a flyer on late in a dynasty league, and the even bigger reaction was Corey Knebel, who's in line to be the Phillies closer and has huge strikeout potential. Is 30. I mean, he's not that old. He could potentially be, if he's able to stay healthy, he could potentially have a few years as a closer still. So I thought that was a really good pick this late.
All right. Huascar Ynoa, I was going to mention, and there he goes, man. Brad Johnson making these quick picks. Good picks, by the way. Juan Yepez and Jose Barrero. I like the Inoa pick. Lane Thomas, I think, is interesting. Aurelvis Martinez, prospect there with the Blue Jays. I took Alex Wood. I need another pitcher. And, of course, Juan Yepez and Jose Barrero. I could use another closer. I need a utility bat. I'm going to go ahead and this is just too late for Oswald Peraza. So I'm going to take him and make sure anyone else who's watching doesn't steal him from me. So I'm going to select him there. Some power, some speed. I think probably more so known for his speed than the power, but the power came along last year for Oswald Peraza. And, I would say between him and Volpe, I think it's more likely that they trade Peraza away. If they want to acquire Matt Olson, obviously you got to give something to get something. So as well as Oswald Peraza part of that deal, I think there's a decent chance that he is. So I don't know that it will be with the Yankees, but he's flashed some power and speed here. And I think that he is an interesting prospect. Eric, what do you think about these three in a row? I know Jose Barrero has lost a little bit of his prospect luster, but Juan Yepez, Jose Barrero, and Oswald Peraza.
I like him. Juan Yepez obviously broke out this year with the Cardinals. Saw him out in the Arizona Fall League, and he's legit. This is a dude. Like, this is a hitter. I don't know where he fits in defensively with St. Louis, and I don't know if he has a spot this year because obviously they just have Gold Glovers all over that field, infield and outfield. Also, they're trying to fit Nolan Gorman into the picture too. So, not sure where he fits in the short term, but this guy's gonna hit if given the chance to start regularly. So I like that pick. Barrero, he's going to play just because his defensive skills are so good. They need that short. Like, Kyle Farmer is not the answer. Eugenio Suarez, we saw how that went moving him to short. So Barrero, I think, is their long-term guy. And, the offense is ticked up. I don't think he's going to be a standout offensively, but maybe 15 homer, 10 steal type of guy with the average that won't kill you. So like him as well. Peraza is the most intriguing one, though. There, you mentioned the power speed blend that he's shown, solid hit tool as well. Where does he fit in with the Yankees, or is it elsewhere? I think that remains to be seen. But for fantasy purposes, Peraza's got a very intriguing profile.
Yes. Oswald Peraza, Anthony Volpe, Trey Sweeney. Lots of fun coming for the Yankees, hopefully, or on another team. We'll see what happens. But look, they've done a great job, just development-wise. I don't know what they've been doing down there, but it has worked. The Yankees just seemingly just keep coming up with prospects, and even Jason Dominguez is still there. It feels like maybe some people have pushed him down some prospect lists, but lots of upside still in that organization, whether or not they make it there or they're traded elsewhere. After I took Oswald Peraza, Yuli Gurriel, Nate Lowe, Christian Hernandez, Scotty selects Blake Treinen, who as of now would be the Dodgers closer. We'll see what they wind up doing once the lockout is over, and Mike Zunino. So another catcher here. We are at about 2.5 hours. This has been a very long draft and a long time to be on air. So I think that we're going to slowly start to wrap it up here. Anyone else that's watching, if you haven't already, please we're up to 93. So gonna come pretty close to that 100 number that we were looking for. So we do appreciate you. Subscribe.
You haven't been threatening to kick me off the podcast this time.
I know.
If we don't get to 100. So I don't know that people are as motivated.
Yeah, I should have mentioned it earlier too. That was my.
I know, because now it looks like I'm going to be kicked off the podcast.
Yeah, the thing was, we started. I was thinking about the chili. I was like, oh, my stomach is kind of weird. I'm like, I forgot about the YouTube likes and the subscribers, but that's my bad. Yeah, that's totally my fault. Let's quickly just run through the teams here. We haven't checked in on Eric's team in a while, so let's see what you got. Catchers: Omar Narvaez, Alejandro Kirk. You got Paul Goldschmidt, Gavin Lux, Chris Bryant, Corey Seager. Xander Bogaerts. Wow, that shortstop middle infield is amazing. Ke'Bryan Hayes, Bryce Harper, Teoscar Hernandez, Josh Lowe, Yordan Alvarez, Riley Green. So some prospects mixing there. CJ Abrams, and the pitching staff. How did it turn out? Sonny Gray, Joe Musgrove, Tyler Glasnow, Tyler Matley, Jordan Montgomery, Garrett Whitlock, Jesus Luzardo, Zach Gallen, Daniel Espino. No closers. We don't need closers in Dynasty. It's a messy position, but an interesting mix of bounce back candidates for you, Eric, and of course some pitching prospects as well.
Yeah, I was actually going to go Blake Treinen until Scott sniped him from me rudely here in the 28th round.
What I like to hear.
Yeah, I love Blake Treinen. I think he's going to be, could be a top 10 arm reliever this year if they don't bring in somebody else or bring back Jansen. But yeah, I like the pitching is a little more on the risky side, but I guess some, good short-term guys like Montgomery and Molly and Sonny Gray to mix in as well. And I think overall I like the mix of win now pieces, the solid vets and some of the younger prospects I got. So overall, I'm pretty happy.
All right. Pretty happy. That's good. That's a win. I mean, in a dynasty startup draft, if you're pretty happy, I would say
I'll take it.
That's pretty damn good there. Let's catch people up on a few more picks here. Nick Senzel. Man, Nick Senzel. What a fall from grace, man.
Right.
It's crazy. But the guy just can't stay healthy. Yeah, he cannot stay healthy. Luis Torrens, Colton Cowser. That's a good
I
pick.
like that.
Yeah, that's
I like that
late
pick,
here.
Eric. If there was one more prospect I was going to take,
Nice.
well, I shouldn't say that. I might take a second catcher prospect, but non-catcher division, it would have been Colton Cowser.
I love Cowser.
I feel like he's kind of a sleeper in this year's first-year player drafts, Eric, where obviously everyone's talking about the top 4 catchers, the obviously Jack Leiter, but once you get past that group, originally it felt like most people were like, man, this is a 5-player draft, and in Dynasty, it doesn't look great after those top 5, but it feels like a lot of people are kind of warming up to Colton Cowser and moving him into that next tier.
Yeah, and I think the draft has gotten maybe it's not as top heavy as it was in the last couple of years, or even next year's, or technically this year's draft class. But it's definitely very talented at the top, and there's not really a big gap between like 1 and 11 or 12. And I think Colton Cowser falls into that back end of the top 10 range. I have him, I think, 6th or 7th in my FYPD rankings, and the hit tool is plus. Could be a guy that first 2020. He's got Camden yards. Good, Baltimore's been pretty damn good developing, especially on the offensive side of things with prospects. So yeah, there's a lot to like there. I think Cowser could be a guy that you see like top 25 in prospect rankings by the end of the year.
I feel like he's better for points leagues because I get kind of like a Michael Brantley-ish vibe from Colton Cowser.
Yeah, I can see that.
But you're generally not starting 5 outfielders in a points league, so. In a way that he's more necessary here in this format.
Well, Scott, I hope that nobody in your Dynasty League is watching this, but I saw that you sent out the draft order earlier today in the Scott White Dynasty League.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of hoping that I can get Colton Cowser at my pick. I don't know how realistic it is, but I think I have 9th overall. It would be awesome if I can get Colton Cowser.
I think it's 50-50 shot at that point. That's right, but where I've seen him going is anywhere from like 7 to 12. So you're right in that range.
I'd like that.
I don't know what to do with my last pitcher spot here. I could go Greinke, who I love to take. Frank, but he's really old. Carrasco, he's not much younger, but I love to take him. Alex Cobb, he's not much younger, but I kind of feel like he has the best future of the 3.
Do it.
The one who's likely to last the longest in his remaining career. Yeah, I'll take Cobb.
Do it.
Alex Cobb.
I have a rule where I have to leave every draft with at least one San Francisco Giant. So I drafted a San Francisco Giant pitcher. So I drafted Alex Wood. I like the value on all of them, but Wood, Cobb, and DeSclafani are the ones that I like to target very late as my reserve round pitchers, and I think there's some upside for each of those names. We're gonna wrap it up here. We still got a few more picks, but Eric, probably should have asked you this earlier. What do you got going on? Is there anything else that you'd like to promote? Any maybe prospect lists coming up, or any articles that you have coming out that you'd like to promote?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, guys. This was a lot of fun. It was 2.5 hours, but that flew by, honestly. I got a lot of stuff going on. Fantrax HQ. We got a lot of our draft kit stuff going there. A lot of great writers we brought on board. Really happy with the team we have there, and I've updated prospect rankings and dynasty rankings probably right around March 1st, give or take. Have them in consecutive weeks. Working on that update right now. A lot of prospect stuff, redraft stuff. I've been writing over at FantasyPros as well as the Fantrax Toolshed with Chris Clegg. Just went through our positional preview episodes there. So, yeah, it's a really fun time of year. I love draft season. I love it. It's my favorite time of year.
It's amazing, and it would be even better if we had pitchers and catchers. So,
absolutely,
we knew when the season was starting.
Let's speed this up here. I know that for anyone watching this on demand, if you're still watching 2.5 hours into this mock draft, that on Thursday there's going to be another meeting. Apparently, the Players Association is expected to submit a proposal So we'll see. Hopefully we can build some momentum, but we've got about 2 weeks from this point where if we can get some kind of agreement by the end of February, then there's a realistic chance that we won't actually miss any regular season games. So that's the goal. Let's get something done by the end of February here. Again, I want to thank Eric. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at EricCross04. You can find his work over at Fantrax and FantasyPros. I believe you recently joined FantasyPros, right?
Yeah, I wrote for them 4 years ago for a year, 2017, 2018. And yeah, they just reached out to me, wanted me to come back. So it's a good place to write. I enjoyed my time there several years ago. So yeah, I've had 3 articles since coming back. So it's been a few weeks now, but it's a fun place to write.
Awesome. Yeah. Congratulations to you on that opportunity.
Thank you.
Scotty, any closing thoughts here as we wrap up this 2 hours and 40 minutes?
As my second catcher, I'm going to take Luis Campusano.
Ooh.
And I don't really understand why his prospect stock has dropped so much when
because they have 80 catchers on their team.
But
that is one point. Yeah.
I feel like he's a good enough hitter with the DH implemented in the NL now to potentially be more of as a part-time catcher, part-time DH. That could actually help his fantasy value. And I really like the hitter profile here. And he seems to get better every step up the ladder. He's still very young too. I don't know. People are treating him like he's old. He's 23.
That's old that's prospect fatigue nowadays.
Yeah, basically.
23 is the new 26 these days.
Yeah. Man. All right. Well, this was a lot of fun. Again, thank you. Make sure you follow Eric on Twitter. If you're watching this after the fact, make sure to like and subscribe as well. For Scotty and Eric, I am Frank. Thank you all for listening and watching this mock draft edition of Fantasy Baseball Today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.